Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Nextlander podcast. Brad Shoemaker, welcome here this March.
Thanks for having me. It's been a long time dream to be on the show, and now we've made it happen.
Oh, you're a big fan.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really good to hear.
Been listening since 2008.
Long time, no time?
Yep.
Great. Well, we've got a great show for you today, Brad. You picked a great one to be on for today.
Great.
Yeah. Alex Navarro.
Yes?
Before the show started, you said you wanted to talk about some sad news.
Yeah. Space Ghost died.
And
that's a real bummer. And by Space Ghost passing away...
I mean, voice actor George Lowe, who was, apart from Space Ghost, was a huge part of the overall, Adult Swim collection of shows back in the era when that stuff was, let's just say, greatly influencing my own sense of humor. But most prominently, he was the voice of Space Ghost on Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
Oh man, he was only 67.
Yeah.
That is very young.
He's not one of the cast members of Space Ghost Coast to Coast has been in kind of the news a lot for being an Amazon delivery guy, basically.
Andy Merrill.
So it's not him. Okay.
No, Andy Merrill is the voice of Brack, and also it was on the Brack show, obviously. The other one was C. Martin Croker, who also died some years ago, I think. He was the voice of Zorak.
Yeah, I mean, that guy was a flashpoint in the conversation of voice actors and comic creators and all kinds of people who actually make the things you love routinely get completely screwed by the corporations who own the things they make.
Yeah. And Adult Swim in particular is, I think, even an edge case among edge cases for that stuff, because my understanding was, despite the voluminous creative contributions people like Merrill and Lowe had, I don't think any of them ever really got much in the way of residuals for those shows, or at least not anything that was meaningful enough to, support them. And, now Adult Swim basically doesn't exist anymore. The whole thing that, the apparatus that made those shows more or less got dismantled by Discovery.
That show I'm trying to keep up with about the mushrooms has that William Streeter Adult Swim logo at the top.
They still use the logo. There were some shows that I think they kept, but by and large, my understanding is that a lot of the in-house stuff, they just laid a bunch of those people off, I think.
This is embarrassing to admit. I still don't quite understand what the lineage of Space Ghost Coast to Coast is. Are they using old footage from an older thing? Okay.
So Space Ghost is an old Hanna-Barbera cartoon, all the other things that they remixed for the Adult Swim shows. I think this was the first one they did it with. But yeah, Space Ghost was just a fairly marginal cartoon series, I would say. And they are taking the existing animation, sometimes adding new animation, but more often than not, just taking the cells and remixing them in ways to do their extremely stoned humor.
That's incredible. Maybe I should have watched that show. I thought it was just taking footage from an original show, kind of final footage.
Mm-hmm.
Actually messing with getting in there with the cells and doing new stuff is that's some paper, not paper doll, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
That's taking your dolls and playing around with them to make new stories.
So go ahead, Vinny.
Well, I was going to ask, so how did the interview stuff work?
So I don't know all the particulars. I've watched some of the behind-the-scenes stuff before, but what I've gathered is that a lot of times when the celebrities would come into their interview room, they were either reading lines or giving them prompts, which maybe didn't necessarily correspond exactly to what they would do when they got in the voice booth and did the final script.
Yeah.
Which is why sometimes that stuff felt like maybe they were having separate conversations. But that was very much by design from what I can tell. Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing is very just, right, where you have the interviewer going, shabba-doo-doo, and then Space Ghost going, shabba-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, and then they're just
and then they scat for 45 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the interviewee would just be like, this is really dumb. They'd be like, if you don't want to be here, just leave, and then slowly slide off the frame. Yeah.
I think if you go back to a lot of those Adult Swim shows, some of them hold up better than others. There's a lot of Aqua Teen stuff that I think doesn't hold up super well to the light of modern day. But just about everything for me with Space Ghost does, because it's just...
It's absurd.
It's completely absurd, but also it felt a lot more forward thinking and weirdly artistic for what those Adult Swim shows eventually became. They had no oversight. That is very clear. No one was telling them what to do with that show. So they were kind of given carte blanche to be as weird and and sometimes even hostile to the audience as they felt like. Like one of the episodes, I watched some episodes last night just in celebration of the man and his work. Like there's one episode where that basically ends with Space Ghost deciding he's going to track an ant to its anthill and kill its entire family. And this goes on for 11 minutes. Like he is very slowly crawling across these different landscapes, humming to himself for like a solid 10 straight minutes. There's no jokes. Nothing happens. It just keeps going and going and going until he gets to the very end, and then he is chased off by giant monster-sized ants.
They found that one animation of Space Ghost crawling, and they were like, by God, we're going to get half an episode out of this.
George, we need you to go for like 15 minutes, and then we'll edit something out of that.
Maybe he was going on vacation and they needed an episode, you know?
Yeah.
So there was Space Ghost, Brack, Moltar?
Moltar is the guy with the console, yeah.
Yeah, and then who was the band? Zorak. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, the band leader. Those are the mainstays?
Those are the main characters. Every once in a while, other weird novelty villains from the show would show up in different roles. There's also a fake Space Ghost, I think his brother, if I remember, named Tad, who is Space Ghost, but he has a goatee. Yeah. There's also Space Ghost's dad shows up, and he's voiced by Macho Man Randy Savage at one point. Like really, Macho Man? Yeah. Oh, wrestling really has permeated everything, huh? Well, especially then, because WCW was owned by Time Warner back then, and that was, so like, some of the people they were roping in were people that were on various Time Warner properties. Rest in peace. Rest in peace, George Lowe, a genuinely influential figure on my sense of humor from a very long time ago. And so it's Cartoon Network is still around, I assume, right? To some degree, yes. Okay. I think they mostly show a lot of reruns, but I do like Brad said, there are some Williams Street things that still exist. It seems like. I want to say early on. I could be wrong because my memory's terrible. I went to a focus group thing as a kid for Cartoon Network because I got this T-shirt. Was it about from the mall. No, it was about Cartoon Network, and they were like trying to see what the appetite for kids was for like Scooby-Doo and old Hanna-Barbera stuff that they were originally showing on Cartoon Network as loops. It was like right, they were just showing that shit because they owned all of it. Yeah, so they were just like, like, what do you think about these? Do you know who this is? Do you know what these properties are? And I think do you remember what year that was? Gosh. I know. I was. Do you remember roughly how old you were? If I probably must have been like 10 or 12 in that range. So that's probably late 80s, early 90s. Okay. Like,
did they give you anything?
I had a T-shirt. I think I got a T-shirt, and probably like $20 or something that my mom took. Yeah.
Damn. That goes to the college fund.
I don't know. We went to a couple of focus groups in the mall. I went to one for this product called Ring Raiders, where you put these like little planes on your fingers and then you'd fly them around on your hand. Like,
I feel like I remember those. Did those actually come out?
I think they might have come out.
Okay, yeah, I feel like I remember seeing at least a commercial for those.
They were like in the mall, they just pay you a couple of bucks and you go and you talk about whether you'd like this toy or not, which focus groups, we gotta talk to somebody somewhere.
I never got invited to any focus groups when I was a kid. I did get invited to one television show studio audience when I was down in LA, but nice. I never got to do any focus groups.
Do you remember what it was?
Yes, I remember. It was this fairly short-lived syndicated parody talk show called Nightstand with Dick Dietrich.
Did it make it to TV?
Yes. No, the show was on TV. I think the episode I did aired, but Timothy Stack was the actor who played Dick Dietrich. And he's one of those, like, I think he was Mr. Belding on Saved by the Bell, if I remember correctly. Okay. Right. He was very funny. The show's writing was up and down, I will say, but Timothy Stack made a pretty good fake talk show host.
Do they still do live studio audiences? I mean, I guess they barely do sitcoms at this point, right?
But they still do daytime talk shows.
Oh
yeah.
Like Drew Barrymore has a show, Jennifer Hudson has a show.
For a sitcom drama, like a scripted show with studio audience.
I haven't watched a new sitcom in a very long time.
What's a sitcom? Fair. Are there new sitcoms?
Yes, there's a show there's literally a show with Tim Allen right now that is apparently one of the highest rated shows on TV at the moment. Yeah,
that is just grim.
Yep,
that's incredible.
Let's just say he found the right time to get his version of politics into the sitcom space again.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, that's weird. He's an older man now, isn't he?
Yeah.
Wow, he's 71. Good Lord.
Well, sitcoms, situational comedies, and
Fake talk shows.
We mentioned this. I'll just update you guys. This is mostly for you two, not for the audience. I will update to both of you because we talked about it, I think, on the Ramblecast. I have downloaded and started my Plex amp journey to rebuild the once great empire of Vinny's music collection.
That was fast.
Well, I had a music folder already, and I have Plex, and I guess I probably had access to the Plex amp because I've had the Plex Pass for a while. I just never used it. But now it's free for everyone, the Plex amp stuff?
I think basic, yes. I don't have a Plex Pass, and I can use it. I think there are some features in Plex amp locked off behind a pass.
Okay. I've notified the family that we will begin the slow transition does that mean mark songs? Yeah.
Does that mean they're going to be streaming it? You're going to have users?
I will have. Well, it'll be the same login probably.
Yeah. I don't know. It's cool to set up a thing and have other people use it too.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about setting up users on my main Plex account at some point. I'm just not sure what my upstream ability is for that stuff. So
get to feel like a proper admin.
Yeah.
You got that FiOS, right?
I do got that FiOS, but
if you ever need somebody to test it out, look, just send me an invite. And,
happily, if you want to be my test case, I will more than happily set up an account for you.
Do you still host it on your main PC or your gaming PC?
Yeah, I only have one PC. Yeah,
we'll get you.
That's fine. I'm more than happy to do. I've been thinking about getting a separate PC for streaming and stuff. So that probably is what I will end up doing.
Well, that wouldn't help your power bill much.
No. But you use the external drives, right, for your storage.
Yes, I have not set up a NAS yet because I'm lazy.
You should no. You get I use one of those little like $300, $400 Nooks, those like little PCs for my Plex, and it's awesome because it just, as long as it's got the encoding chip built in, it's all it needs to do, and it's low power, and it just it doesn't take resources from my PC.
That's fine by me.
Those things are totally the way to go for like a Plex type thing because they use very little power, and like you said, they're super cheap.
Relatively super cheap,
comparatively, yes.
Yeah. And then you just plug your drives into it, and
beautiful.
Then,
I'm more than happy to to do a switch here at some point. Like it's the only reason I do it this way is because I have one PC. That's it.
You can even run I don't know if you'd want to, but you can even run Windows on it and just run your Plex using the Windows client.
I would probably like to have some kind of interface for it. Yeah.
Man, now you're taking me back to the days of leaving my computer on 24/7. It's been a long time.
Yeah, you still shut down every night?
Oh yeah.
I should probably get more on that.
So my clean boot, fresh browser is the philosophy that I live by.
I love it. Print that on the t-shirt.
Cold boot, fresh browser, whatever.
I mean, I leave my PC. I turn most of my hard drives off at night, but I do leave my PC running because I'm usually encoding some kind of video overnight.
I leave mine on here. I shut off all the work PC stuff, but I leave my main gaming PC on because I play from Moonlight in the house a lot at night and then fall asleep playing games. So I leave it running in here, but maybe I should get. It used to be the case, and Brad, maybe this is apocryphal or not, but wasn't it like, there's more stress booting up on the PC than there is just leaving it running?
It's definitely one of the things you heard for a long time. Like that might be more true when hard drives are in the mix than now.
Solid state drives.
Yeah, I've never actually seen any like definitive, straight dope on that whole thing.
Yeah, I also like whatever stress, a power supply is just going to fail anyway. That's my feeling at this point. It's all garbage, it's all crap, but not rebuilding the library. And this is so weird. We talked about this on the Ramblecast, but like I had to do a search on search engines to be like, okay, where does one buy music? Because the stuff I was looking for wasn't on Bandcamp.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? I don't want to own a CD. Is there? And I did find a couple of places, but the interesting thing was I also found a lot of people asking that same exact question in 2025.
It's not as clear as it ever should be. It absolutely is not. Like I said, Bandcamp works for very specific kinds of stuff, but like if you're just looking for like, hey, I want to buy this fucking AC/DC album, where do I go? Just random example.
Like in a particular thing, like
I want good quality,
and a good quality and DRM free, right?
Yeah, because there's all kinds of platforms that will sell you music, but should you buy it from them?
That's the question.
Very dependent on the platform. Like some of them have DRM, some of them give it to you in crappy quality. Like you have to be careful.
Let me be clear. I have ways to help you, Vinny. But I don't want to make you go that route unless you're ready for it.
I'm more than willing to just go and rebuild by paying and hopefully giving money to artists and going and rebuilding.
That is the way to go.
But what I don't want is to just have another binder full of CDs personally.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would rather just have the high quality version. Ideally, I'd go to a place where you buy, and this is the thing I found too. Go to a place you buy it, and it's not a single download forever that you can go and re-download if something were to happen.
Right, like the Bandcamp system where it's always there and you can always grab it if you need it.
Some places I looked at, they only allow one download and then one emergency download if your thing were
that stinks.
That's stupid.
Which is a little rough. So I did find some places though that eventually they're like, okay, prices seem like $20 for an album. That seems reasonable to me. And they have, I don't know what the highest bit rate of FLAC would be, but the
24-bit.
That's the highest they have.
That is basically, and again, 24-bit is really only useful if you are ripping vinyl or if you are like literally just getting the high res like master audio versus like you don't need a 24-bit of a CD rip. You know, like that. Yeah. That's not what you're looking for.
You'll also a lot of the time you'll see 24-bit used in conjunction with 96 kilohertz.
Yes,
which is just a gigantic file.
It is. I have some 96 kilohertz files.
So yeah, I'm gonna start that journey. Like I said, I've got a lot of stuff that I think I might start with a curated full albums only library.
That's a great way to start.
That's the way I go. That's definitely the way I go.
And then put all of my Napster stuff in another bin somewhere that was like my teen and early 20s music stuff. And then if I want to rebuild those albums or go buy those albums, I can. But I think I'm going to start with my music collection, probably, re-ripped or whatever I have as the highest quality I can. Then look and see what I have that are full albums and then move on from there. And then, see where we have to go, because the kids certainly have albums they listen to on Spotify all the time. Like I'm sure I'm gonna have to go buy the Wicked soundtrack in one form or another and go get certain things. But on top of that, y'all, I did it, and I finally, for the 3 albums I have, I bought a record player.
Nice.
I did it. Yes.
What kind of research did you do on that? Because everything, the thing that has stopped me from finally going and buying my own record player is reading anyone talk about record players.
So I've talked about it for a while here. I've probably spent more time trying to keep up with it. It's an expense that seems frivolous to me because I'm not sure how much I'll use it. So it's something that I've just been kind of chilling out on. But I've been following Reddit stuff for a while. That's where I've been going, like the Reddit record player places, and being like, okay, these
those
brands,
people are sane.
They're sane. But they might just be not sane in the ways I need for this stuff to be like, if you can parse it out without all of the there are decent guides out there that take into account that you don't want to spend $72,000 and live in a acoustically isolated room.
And you're not trying to do like flawless, fucking like vinyl rips. You just want something that plays records and doesn't sound like shit.
You're telling me that you're going to buy an LP player that does not have balanced knobs?
That's right. Yes. What kind of platter do you want? Are you going to do you have shock absorb? Let
me tell you about needle width.
Don't worry. You can always get some aftermarket balanced knobs later.
So there was definitely a thing that was just like, look, I am looking in the sub $600 range here. Just immediately just cut off whatever the fuck you're talking about above that. And like I already have a nice phono amp that comes as part of my old like 70s radio stack that I have, which is not a great one, but I just love the vintage chromed out knobs on it. So
totally.
It's this thing my younger brother gave me. He had the amp that he had bought, but he moved to Australia and I was like, I can't use this there, and this it doesn't take to have the right power. And I was like, he gave it to me, and then I bought the tuner for it so they could, and the matching tuner. It's this old Sony, like very wood paneled on the side. They just look cool.
Any brush metal on there?
Yeah. Great. I should send you a picture of it. Yeah, I like it a lot, but it's not the best highest end thing. It's pretty low, but it'll hopefully play the record. Anyway, That's what I did, Alex. I looked on Reddit stuff and I looked around for a while, and it seemed like there were two that I was looking for. One, I think it was Fluence or something, and the other one was a Devo Carbon or something was the other one. Those were like these sub $600 ones.
Ask me anything I know about record players these days.
So those
like
were the
nothing.
two, and I went with the Flu. I think it's Fluence or Fluence or whatever. I can't remember the exact name of it because I don't care that much. I didn't want to go super low. And I didn't want to go super high. I wanted to kind of be in the, I don't want to buy something because I'm not going to buy another one again. Right? This is now the record player I hope to have. I don't think I'm going to be a record player person. I basically wanted
It's just for the stuff you already have, basically, right?
Well, I might get some other albums. Like I said, I have albums from when I was a kid. They're still at my parents' house. If my parents would give them to me, I would probably just take them. But
so, like 9/10 of my record collection is just records I rescued from my parents because they were either going to get thrown away or they were going to get shoved in a box and never seen again. And I was just like, you know what? Some of these are records I care about. The other ones, even maybe I don't necessarily know what the hell fuck I'm going to do with these Ravi Shankar albums, but I have them. It was more just like for the sake of saying, hey, I have these records, and if I ever get a player, I can listen to them if I want to. You know, I get like these fucking Michael Jackson and like Judas Priest albums and stuff that we had, but other than that, like every record I think I own basically is just completely frivolous at this point. Like I don't listen to them. They're not really there for listening. They're more just for the sake of having.
Yeah, as you are the preserver of media.
Well,
so,
but like I have this copy of Paul's Boutique, but also I have a really nice digital version of Paul's Boutique I can listen to anywhere. So it's more just like for the sake of having it.
So my thing, like, look, I still listen to radio, like actual physical radios. My
bless
thing
you for it, honestly.
Yeah, my thing was, I'm really trying to find ways to be less in the services and less on the computer and stuff.
Absolutely.
And this was like, I just want to put albums on, listen to an album, and not be drawn into as soon as I turn that computer on, I find myself just checking news, checking email, doing whatever. And I find that I just want to put it on, and we'll see how it goes. It could be a thing I use for a month, and then I'm like, oh man, remember that record player you bought? And then,
yep.
Yeah,
oh no, we've never bought things like that. That never happens. We never buy devices and then put them on a shelf and never touch them.
Does your record player have USB out?
I did not get one with. I should double check. Like I said, I did the research to have other people do the research and be like, look, is this the one I want to get? Yes. It was like I found a good couple of like this versus this. I knew the two I wanted, and
this just sparked a memory in me. I have a turntable. It's upstairs in the attic. It was a USB one that they sent to me as part of the Mafia 3 promo code.
Wow. Okay. I think I've said it before. I abandoned one of those at GameSpot when I left. I regretted it to this day. I forget what game that showed up for, but yeah, they sent a record player for something that had USB out on it.
Was it Mafia 3? Because they sent those collector's edition to our office, and I just took it.
That was way later, right? Mafia 3 was like
2017?
Yeah, no, this was like 2007, 8.
Okay, all right.
I don't remember. Apparently, Video Game PR used to send out a lot of record players.
GameSpot. Yeah, no, but like big difference there. Fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. What if that thing's any good?
Yeah.
I've never tried it.
Look, the thing is, I probably wouldn't know the difference of like what's really good or what's not really good. We're probably a little more than you, Alex, but Brad, you're the same age as I am. Like we were young enough to be in the actual records, time frame. We're not that old.
Yeah.
That was the music my parents introduced me to was stuff they had on record. Yeah.
So there is a little bit of like, like I'm not fully nostalgic about this because I remember what a pain in the ass it was to not be able to skip tracks or to to basically have to worry about scratching things or take care of them.
God, imagine if we were just like burning vinyls the way we used to burn CDs. We were just going to fucking CompUSA and buying stacks of fucking vinyl discs that we were then like burning and then throwing away 6 months later when we wanted another one.
That'd be I'm glad we're not doing that.
Yes, I agree.
So yeah, that's just old man Vinny getting out of the system.
Exciting. Nice. You know what's kind of relaxing is curating your music collection.
That's what I want to have a little bit more of that in everything. Curate what I watch, curate what I listen to, maybe enjoy it more, maybe try and take some more control back over my attention span.
Yes.
So it's not just
if that's the way you want to go, sure.
fleeting and being grabbed at all over the place. Some of it is obviously a reaction to our modern times and trying to feel like I'm not being tossed around in the water, get an oar in the water a little bit.
Like finding something that you feel like you have control over. It's actually pretty nice and therapeutic right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see. But I'm trying to think where we're going to start. Oh yeah, we're going to start with this. But sharing that control can also be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always healthy to just be the one in control. It's cooperative. Going through life can be a cooperative adventure, just like Split Fiction. Got him. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
He's still got it, folks. He's still 20 years later. This guy's still got it. Split Fiction, Haze Light's next game, and
makers of It Takes Two.
Yep. Makers of Brothers, makers of
A Way Out.
A cooperative adventure.
Yes. Very, very familiar if you played It Takes Two so far from what I've seen. I don't know how far you are in.
I am up to, let's see how to gauge it. So I played it a couple of times because I played it with both of my kids. I am up to, it's one of the sci-fi stories. It is post the optional sci-fi story. Did you get to that one?
I'm on the optional one is in the desert, right?
Takes place in the desert.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I'm on that optional one. So can you just skip that? Now we're just getting in the weeds before we've even talked about the broad strokes, but can you skip that side story? Because in the chapter select, I think it was listed as optional.
So I don't think you can skip that one because when you run away from it, you can't. The characters are like, I think we have to do this side thing, but I suspect in the future you will have to do it. As you run away from it, you can't go anywhere. You're kind of dead ended, and when that goes away, I think a wall or a ladder opens up. But it sounds like after you finish it, one of the characters is like, I'm going to keep an eye out for these optional things, and the other character is like, we should really not waste our time on these optional things. I
wonder which character it is that says that. Which should be two,
or what's the other one's name? Eve?
Oh gosh, it's also 3 letters, isn't it?
Yeah.
How am I forgetting this?
Mio
I played Mio, so I can't tell you the other character's name.
Gosh, I can't remember either. I played both of them. All right. So Split Fiction is the if you don't know, Zoe. That's what it is. It's so you got up to the part where the main crux of the story comes into play, right? Where they figure out what's going on in the outside world.
Sure.
I think it's right before they head into the next sci-fi. It's when they're in the crack opens up in the wall and they can hear the people talking outside.
Yeah, I did hit the first one of those. Although if there's something truly nefarious going on, I don't know if I've fully gotten.
Well, So the setup is, and this is very early on in the story, so no spoilers here. The setup is this megacorp or whatever, let's just call it Amazon.
Yes, it's very much an Amazon type.
Has invited these unpublished authors to come visit their space with maybe the dangling a publishing deal in front of them. It sounds like there's probably some kind of publishing deal for these authors dangling in front of them. So there's, I don't know what, like 6 or 7 authors that show up to this thing. Yeah. Mio and Zoe kind of meet and they hate each other, or Mio hates everybody. And Zoe is kind of more bubbly, right?
Yes, like to a fault.
Yeah,
like these characters are such extreme archetypes. Like the first time they meet in the elevator going up to the place, Zoe, the extremely bubbly one, is like talking the other one's ear off, and then Mio is just like, I'm sorry, I don't do small talk.
Yeah. So it's Mio is the dystopian sci-fi writer. Zoe is the kind of more fantasy writer. And so Zoe really wants this publishing deal. Mio, it sounds like, just wants to get paid for her work. But quickly it turns into put on this like weird like bodysuits and then get in these weird bubbles. And that's part of the deal here. Everybody does it except for Mio, who is like, fuck this shit. I think I'm out. And then suddenly gets harassed and manhandled and is like, no, you can't leave. and then accidentally winds up stumbling into Zoe's sphere, her bubble, in a way that was not intended. So now we have two people in one bubble.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically like VR simulation, two characters kind of bouncing back and forth between each other's like imagined shared worlds.
Yeah, it basically realizes your story into a VR world, and that's the thrust of the gameplay is you're now bouncing between Mio and Zoe's stories that they have. One is fantasy, one is sci-fi.
No offense to them, but I think I might see why they haven't been published so far.
Ooh,
wow!
It's extreme. I mean, that's probably part of the point of the story, right? But like, it's like extremely stock standard fantasy and sci-fi stuff that I've seen so far.
Cyber ninjas.
Yeah, cyber ninjas, trolls ransacking a Shrek-like village.
Yeah.
But it seems like it's starting to open up a little more where I'm at, because now you're getting into levels where they're like, wait a minute, this isn't even the idea that I submitted to the company. Why are we in this?
So that's the main kickoff of the story, and maybe minor spoilers here, but not really. The real thrust is they overhear a conversation that makes it sound like the would-be Amazon corporation is extracting all the ideas from their artists. Yep. The bubble pulls, and they're like, wait, not just the one we submitted to be published. Drain them of their ideas.
Yep.
And that's very early on, and that is why they continue to go through this to basically seemingly stop this from happening, for the extracting of all the ideas. The gameplay, though, is so far I find pretty good, pretty fun, pretty different for the levels so far.
It's not bad. It's very action heavy. It's been a long time since I played It Takes Two, but I feel like I remember that game being a little more puzzle oriented than this. Like,
it was straight up a puzzle platform.
Yeah. This is kind of just extreme action platforming challenge so far. There has not been a lot in the way of like serious puzzle solving, which I've been playing with my girlfriend. To be clear, you can't play this game by yourself. Like, we should probably spell out for people who haven't played their recent games, like, you either need somebody on the couch with you or online.
Yeah.
And like, she barely plays video games ever, and action games, like, not at all. And like, she's doing okay, but like some of the platforming is maybe a little tough for people who don't play video games like at all.
But it is not punishing in a way. Like, you can die as many times as you want.
Yeah. So unless you both die within like kind of 3 seconds of each other, it's constantly respawning you.
Yeah.
So that's the only way to even have to go back to a checkpoint. You both pretty much have to die kind of at the same time.
The only punishment is the other person might just have to wait at a prompt because the other person's there and be like, okay, no, you got it. You take your time. You got it.
Yeah.
That part's a little tough.
It was like kind of fun though, sort of like coaching and like kind of guiding her through how to double jump into an air dash into a grappling hook type stuff, because you do have to do stuff like that.
So you were playing Mio?
Yeah.
So there is a part that I think the game really picks up a little bit in mechanics. It's the Cyber Ninjas part where Zoe winds up getting this gravity whip, which is a completely different mechanic than Mio, because she's got this gravity sword that can change the environment. And I played with my son and I played with my daughter, and I played different characters with each of them, but they both seemed to immediately pick up the mechanics of it in a way that I was a little worried that the gravity whip was not going to click with my daughter at first. Actually, no, she got the sword, and it's cool though. Because Mio throws the sword and then gravity changes based on where the sword hits. So suddenly she's like running on walls or up on the ceiling, and the gravity whip is like just, pulling objects and then flinging them around.
Yeah, like that's kind of neat from, having the split screen where on each other's screen you see the other character kind of like walking up and down the wall or on the ceiling or whatever.
That was really fun. The part, I didn't play the part, my kids played the part of the a bonus level that's in the desert, and that's a lot of sliding down sand. That's almost like, for the most part, it almost seems like a forced scroller.
Got a real journey vibe from the beginning of that thing. Yeah,
and there are a couple of little puzzle bits in it, but there's a lot of on rails parts on that thing. But so far, I'm digging it. It's corny. Like it's
it's very, definitely like. Does this play like it kind of feels like a DreamWorks sort of story a bit?
I think it's cornier.
So, sure, okay,
yeah,
it's DreamWorks but cornier. Sure,
yeah, it's maybe less a DreamWorks and more like some like lower rent Netflix kids. Cartoon.
Okay.
Like,
right.
I mean, it's like, I don't hate it. like I actually I think it's less grating on me than It Takes Two, though. There is one part which I think maybe they're making fun of themselves. There's one part where if you played It Takes Two, remember the elephant that you're forced to like mangle to make the daughter cry?
Oh God!
They make a reference to that where you have to like rip a leg off an elephant and you get an achievement that's like you made her cry, which I'm like, yeah, that was fucked up. That was a bad thing. That was some bad stuff you did. Anyway, this is less that and less like whatever they were going for with divorce trauma in their It Takes Two. This is much just cornier of like fantasies fun and uplifting and sci-fi is depressing and dark.
Yeah, with the kind of background critique of extractive corporations.
Yeah, right.
Like their tech bro guy is a real asshole. Like,
yeah, he sucks. Like
there is nothing charismatic about this guy at all. Although actually, hey, frankly, plenty of recent modern real world examples of that.
Yes.
But there's also like this, I don't know what's going on, where this world takes place or what's happening, but like there's really not a lot of questions asked when he's like, here's my giant machine. Now stand on these things and like bubble time. Except for Mio, who's like, fuck this shit, I'm out of here. And then
no, I'm going to physically grab you and throw you into it.
Also, I don't understand why they can't. The tech bro is concerned about what's happening with the two people in the single bubble. It's obviously causing problems, but for some reason can't turn it all off at that point or extract them.
It can't be turned off. That's the new innovation,
I guess. I actually am enjoying it so far. I think a lot of that has to do with like, look, I'm really enjoying just playing with the kids. Like it's geared. My son is of an age now where he is a little more competitive and a little more like, yeah, let's go. So we're just racing through the levels to be like, who the fuck can get there first, right? And so it's like, come on, man. Oh, what happened? It's like fun jockeying to just dash to see who can make it through the platforming first, which is kind of fun. With my daughter, it's definitely she's not competitive like that, so it's much more like, let's do this together and work on this together, and I'm not just going to leave you behind. Like with my son, we were just trying to hit each other with like the gravity whip and all that other shit.
As well you should.
Knock people off the platforms. And with my daughter, I'm playing it in a cooperative way. It's more fun. And I'm having fun both ways. Both sides
it's not bad. I think it'll live and die around here by how much she wants to play more of it.
Sure.
Like if
especially
she wants to play
since
the
it
rest
is not
of it.
single player. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like if she wants to play the rest of it, we will. I mean, but it'll definitely will. It'll depend on like how interesting the levels get down the line. Like, are they going to, if they have like new mechanics in every level, similar to like the gravity sword and stuff, that'll be cool.
Yeah.
My hopes for it being a little more puzzle oriented are fading. I think the deeper I get into it, like it seems like they really did make kind of an action game.
There's a little bit of puzzle. Well, not really. Actually, it's pretty actiony in the side story you're in. I remember there's one part that I was like, oh, this is a little more, but actually, it's kind of an action puzzle.
Yeah.
We'll see. Are reviews going up? I assume that
reviews are out.
How's it reviewing?
It's from what I've seen, it is a lot of kind of what I thought, which is to say there are some fun mechanics here. The gameplay certainly has its boons, and the writing is questionable.
Okay.
Yeah, 90 average on OpenCritic.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm enjoying playing it so far. I think the mechanics are deep enough or interesting enough for somebody like me, who is like, a hardcore, the hardest of core. That's me. But any of us who have played a lot of games, but accessible enough to people who have not played a lot of games before, but know how to operate an analog stick.
The thing the studio seems to be building is that they are getting better and better at creating like fairly captivating co-op experiences. Like A Way Out was fairly bad even as a co-op experience, and they have iterated and improved in significant ways. The writing maybe is the one area where maybe they could stand to also continue to improve, if at all possible.
Go ahead. I mean, there's definitely co-op in this. Like, quite a bit of it is just like, hey, you've both got platforming to do, just go do it.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some spots, like I'm trying to think about how many spots there are where you actually have to like work together to ping pong timing back and forth and stuff like that.
It picks
a ton,
up,
but some. Okay.
Yeah, it definitely, when you do that, after you're done with that optional thing, you hit more spots where you have to work together and coordinate.
Okay, that's good.
Time this thing. There's you did the cyber ninjas in the traffic, right?
Yeah.
That part had some where you have to
you
like
start
open
getting
this
to-
gate or like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, hey, I need you to use your whip to like pull this crane over so I can grapple off of it and then pull it back the other way.
But I kind of dig that it's not constant, that you can go at your own pace in certain areas and just kind of cruise. We'll see. Well, for me, it's probably going to come down to what you guys said about variety in the levels and whether they can keep it up and keep the mechanics fresh and new. And if the writing completely goes saccharine nonsense, then then I might just be like, ugh.
I mean, there's a severe Odd Couple vibe going on of like, oh, these two are going to end up being best friends by the end, aren't they?
Which is fine. Just do it in a way that feels earned and also like, I don't know, give me maybe a little bit of nuance in our villain here, not just like I'm not just a mind flayer who is just I'm just going to eat all these brains and then wind up being the worst possible person.
I can actually totally picture that guy with tentacles coming out of his face.
Yeah.
So yes.
Split Fiction, $50 out now, I think on everything except for Switch.
It's still 50. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's 50 on PC. I don't know if it's different on the consoles. And that is out by the time this goes up for realsy, March 6th. But yeah, like I said, enjoying it. I think, and Brad, you correct me if I'm wrong, this maybe seems like if you have someone in your life that can sit on your couch to play with, maybe that's the way to go. I can't. It's like hard for me to imagine playing this with a stranger.
Yeah, I assume it has straight up matchmaking. I assume you can hit find game and just get somebody, but I don't. I mean, you could do that, but that would. Yeah,
it seems I don't think that would weird. Yeah,
because I mean, I'll see how the game develops, but from what I've seen so far, I don't know that the game itself is interesting enough to just play it wordlessly with a stranger.
Or like even with a headset on, I don't know. That like it's like something intimate about it. That
or maybe you'll make a new friend. I don't know.
That's right. Maybe you'll make a new friend. Who am I? That's Split Fiction. Let's take a quick break here. Let's come back and let's talk about some other games we've been playing. We'll be right back. And we are back. And we got another game here coming out. Well, was it ever in early access? We're talking about Knights in Tight Spaces.
Yeah, there was a demo.
Right. Yes, the demo. Knights in Tight Spaces came out a couple of days ago, $20. This is the follow-up to Fights in Tight Spaces.
My game of the year, circa 2021.
Alex, what have you thought so far of Knights in Tight Spaces?
It has the juice, my friend. So, I mean, this is a pretty natural building on what they did in Fights in Tight Spaces, which was basically what if there was a John Wick video game, but it was good. And they have obviously transferred the setting here to a fantasy setting, but it works just as well. Like the turn-based combat thing has that sort of already that kind of D&D combat feel to it. And here now it's a deck builder, so all your attacks and your abilities are sort of tied to the cards that you earn over the course of your run. But it works in this setting. Like the idea of, you're fighting off these various brigands and bad people and what have you, and you have wizards instead of, just a guy in a suit. It's a little hinky at the beginning because I was expecting a certain thing, and there's some of the differences in abilities definitely, and also the whole party system feel fairly different from the first game. But once you kind of get into a rhythm with it, it feels very much like playing Fights in Tight Spaces.
So was there no party in the first game? You were just a single character at all times?
Yes.
Okay.
I have to stick up for the John Wick game. It wasn't terrible.
No.
That John Wick game was all right.
It was all right, but it didn't really get the feel, I feel like, of like you're doing John Wick badass shit the way that Fights in Tight Spaces very much did.
Sure.
Was that John Wick Hex?
Yes. Which was okay. It was all right. I'm not trying to call it terrible, but it was like, but I do think
Fights is better.
It kind of ate that game's lunch.
Yeah, sorry, Brad. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to get in there before.
Look, I'm a fan of Mike Bithell and his various works. I'm just saying that's not the one that hit for me.
So I only made it through the prologue, which is, like 5 fights or so in this.
Roughly.
And then the tutorial I did, which I think they do a good job. I don't know what the other options are, but when you start the game, it's like, hey, tutorial wise, hey, do you know what's going on in Fights in Tight Spaces? Then like move on. Or like, or
hey, you just like, want to see what the new stuff is. Just tutorialize the new stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I sure as hell couldn't tell you what was new, so I didn't take that option, but that is kind of nice because it actually just skips you to like kind of the middle of the tutorial, which is where the party stuff comes in.
Yeah, so the party stuff I think is cool. I didn't get to it in the prologue. I did in the tutorial, but I didn't get into a prologue. And correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, because you played a ton of fights. Inventory, like actual weapons and armor, that's new.
There's gear. That is not really a thing that you had. You had abilities that would sometimes let you use, like, hey, you have a knife instead of a gun for this particular attack or whatever. But there was never like a, hey, you are getting gear as you go along.
Did I understand correctly in the tutorial? Like, if you have a weapon equipped in this and you use a card that can use a weapon, like kind of the weapon and the card ability combine, or like the card ability's attack is enhanced by having the weapon? Is that how that works?
It seems like it. So there are also abilities that specifically like, hey, your melee weapon has like twice as much damage on this turn, or, you know, over the next 2 turns, it will build up in damage, that kind of thing.
And some cards can only be used if you have a weapon, right?
Exactly.
Like
and also there are some that are like class focused. Like you can't cast like Fireball spell if you don't have a class that is a caster.
So that was interesting in the tutorial. Again, I didn't get to it in the actual gameplay with the party stuff, but I don't think I realized even from the demo that the hand is going to be for your entire party.
It is.
So it's shared cards for your entire party.
It is, and I will say the only thing that I think is a little hinky about the AI in this one, or the UI in this one, is that when you want to switch, like, if, for instance, if you have to highlight each character, like when you want to do an attack or use one of the cards. If you click one, but then you decide you want to go to a different one, you then have to kind of like right-click off of them and then get on to the next one, and there isn't a lot of feedback about whether you have actually highlighted the correct person or not. So it's just like a little bit of like a, hey, if you could just make this a little more obvious, or maybe just make it a little more, you know, like just cycle through stuff, I feel like it would be better. But once you get into the party mechanics, I feel like it's actually pretty straightforward. Like, generally speaking, you don't have to move people around like crazy. Really, you just need to move people around to make sure they aren't getting hit, or that they aren't in the path of an attack. And then you just really kind of want to use the abilities for like, hey, if everyone's kind of surrounding this one guy, just have everyone concentrate their attacks on that guy. And if you're flanking them, your other party members will do attacks automatically as long as you are attacking that one character that they are flanking. Generally speaking, you don't have to sit there and like micromanage, like, okay, I need to make sure these cards go to this person, this card go to this person. As long as you're just being careful and not like putting your people into danger constantly, it's pretty easy to figure out.
I did think the auto attack based on
position.
Your party, your party members, whatever their ability to auto attack, right? Because they could be a little different, at least based on the tutorial. Was interesting because they also share. Is it called momentum? Is their movement pool, their action points?
Yeah, momentum is the number of action points you have per turn,
and they all share those as well, right? So it seemed like, oh man, you'll burn through those so quickly in a party. But it sounds like what you're saying is maybe not so much. It makes sense.
Well, it also seems like the momentum meter goes up every time you add a party member. So like you actually have a little bit more momentum to pull from when you have a new party member.
Okay. So yeah, I look in the prologue. It plays very similar to fights because you have one character and
you're on a map. You're going from like encounter to encounter. There are like side encounters. Like they literally unlock side quests at one point that you can do for certain party members. But there's also just like you go to a tavern to heal. You know, you go to a shop to buy new cards, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it seems extremely run based.
It is. And so I've gotten to the second tier of the run and a few missions into the second tier. That's as far as I've made it so far. I've been playing on the default difficulty. There's like 6 different difficulty levels.
Yeah.
I might dial it back just so I can see what like a full run looks like at some point, but I haven't found the default to be terribly hard. It's just that like you have to strategize a lot more once you get to that second tier because guys are both tougher and they're a little bit better about like getting around you.
I kind of got the sense from the little bit I played, and I assume fights is similar in this respect. Like it almost seems like the goal is to not get hit, or like it's encouraged to try to pull off a fight and not get hit. Does that make sense? It's not like you have to. It's not a requirement, but like.
But sometimes that's possible. A bonus objective is don't take damage. You know, that kind of thing.
Sure, but it's just the specific way that you have abilities to maneuver around the sides of people or skip behind them. And the way they have to be like perfectly oriented before they can hit you.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the enemies, if I understood correctly, don't even go into an attack posture until they're like lined up and squared with you.
Yes.
So it seemed like if you really had the right cards and enough finesse, you could kind of like dance around enemies and sort of never get hit if you're really good and lucky.
Well, the key thing about the fights system, which is very much what it is here as well, is that it's about throwing enemies also into the path of other enemies. Like a big part of what makes a successful run, at least in fights, and I found at least with some of the more maneuverable characters and characters that have shoves and various like positional attacks, is that getting them into the path of other enemies is every bit as effective as doing the damage yourself.
Yeah, I'd say, Brad, I just add on to that in my experience here with Knights, you don't get your health back after a fight, right? You've got to go
unless
heal.
That fight has a marker on there that says your reward for this fight is you get health back.
Okay. Yeah, so health conservation I felt like was pretty important. But I played a fighter to start with, and the fighter has pretty decent, I think it starts with 4 block already. Yeah. And so chewing up a block card to get 14 block can do a lot if you're going to get hit, right? It can absorb a lot of damage.
Most enemies, or most characters can handle taking a hit during a turn, especially if they have that block or that armor. Yeah. It's when you start getting multiple hits that you're probably screwed.
Right. So yeah, I've enjoyed it so far. Maybe this was my mix or something. It seemed like the sound effects were low in the mix, or I don't know, something was weird. It seemed off to me.
I had a couple spots where it didn't even seem like I got a sound effect when a hit would land.
Okay, maybe that's what was happening too.
So the game is a little bit buggy. I have not noticed any audio bugs, but I would definitely believe that they're there because the game has crashed on me twice while I've been playing it. Now, that said, it saves after every turn, so when you don't lose really any run progress when that happens, so you can just load the game back up and it'll basically be where your last turn started off. That said, it does feel like there are probably at least one polish patch away from being where they want it to be.
But it's so far very similar to experience the fights. I can't wait to try it and get more party members. I like the fantasy setting.
Yeah, the setting's good. The art is good. I will say the ragdoll is broken in a way that I kind of hope they don't fix. Because sometimes when those bodies go flying, their necks and limbs will start stretching in ways that make them look like Mr. Fantastic. And I think that's not by design, but I kind of love it.
Yeah. I dig it. I dig it.
It's cool. Again, if you like fights at all, I feel like there is more than enough here to make you like this, whether you're into fantasy settings or not.
Is this PC only right now?
Right now it is, yeah.
Did fights come out on mobile? It seems like a very good mobile game.
I don't know if it came out on mobile. It did at least come out on consoles. I don't know if it came out on mobile or not.
It is $20 for those who are interested as well on the PC. Knights in Tight Spaces.
A fun game.
Fun twist. Twist on the formula. All right, I think we're getting into what you've been still playing territory here. Let's just kick it off, Alex, with Lost Records, Bloom and Rage. We continue to play, but I think the game may have taken a turn for both of us.
It just doesn't know when to stop with the build. Listen.
Or get started.
The thing I have been willing to go with this game on up to a point is that they really love their flashbacks and flash forwards. They like to just sort of tease out hey, here's this event that happened to the girls in the past. It ties to a conversation they're having in the real world now. To a point, I found that stuff interesting and well done enough. We are now at the 6-hour mark in that game, and they still haven't they just got around to it kind of showing you what I think the supernatural thing is.
Maybe. They've been some fake outs before.
But the build up to it was fucking interminable on this last stream. It just felt like they had hit the natural endpoint for when they should have revealed what was coming. And then they went another hour and a half of the same shit and the same characters still just not having the conversation they need to have to get to the next point. Yeah. And after a while, I really wanted to throw my hands up and say, I don't care anymore.
So, Brad, what happens in this game, just in short, is you're a group of kids, something happened in your past, and you are meeting up with at least some members of this group in the future, 20 years in the future, 30 years in the future, whatever it is. And one of the people that you meet, one of your friends comes, who's kind of called the group together, and within the first hour, puts this package on the table and is like, holy shit, this package showed up. Who would know how to send this package to us and have our special band name on it? And it's sitting on this bar table, right?
Mhm.
That's like hour one. And then
that's
for
in the present day?
that's in the present day. Be like, this fucking package, man. This fucking package.
Like,
and it's wrapped up.
We're way past Chekhov's package at this point. It is literally like they keep referencing it, they keep commenting on it, they keep looking at it, and then they just shift to it. Literally, another character shows up, and then they start talking about her fucking influencer career, and you're like, what are you fucking doing?
Wait, have they still not opened the package?
No!
What?
No. So I don't know what's going on. It could be a thing which might be interesting, where by playing the game, you are deciding what's in the package. You know, the choices you make are going to dictate what is in the package, but it doesn't matter at this point, because every time you're like, okay, good, we're going to open the package, then they're like, remember when we picked those like daisies and like we made daisy crowns with them for like 40 minutes? And you're like, the fucking package.
And again, like, some of this is totally fine. Like, the first stream, totally on board. Second stream, I was like a little antsy, but like, okay, that's fine. There's enough here. And it's not even, again, it's not the dialogue, which is, you know, goofy in the way that Don't Nod teen adventures tend to be. It is earnest and sometimes a little painful, but it doesn't feel like completely artificial or like, you know, unnatural for these 90s teens to be talking mostly this way. But by the time we got to this last stream, I was like, okay, it feels like we're building to something. We got to the weird spooky house. Obviously, they're going to build on this at some point. For 2 fucking hours, they are just circling the drain of this thing.
They're just cleaning the house and like setting up their cool house shack. And there were definitely felt like the stronger part of the game was in that first 2 streams that we did, the first 4 hours. This part, the writing felt more forced. It was way cornier, and it just felt like everything was stretched out. Like the song they write was like, went from being like, sure, kids could write this song, to be like, this is just weird, man.
This is irritating.
You just hit some weird territory.
What do you think the odds are that they save the opening of the package for the second half of this, which is not even in the game yet?
I think that what they probably end up doing is they open the package, they all look at it, they go, and then it cuts to black.
Yep. Seems likely.
Okay, well, here's the thing. What we did see, and it sounds like we don't have a whole lot left in this, like maybe half an hour at most in this half of the game. What they show you prior to that final half hour is pretty like, oh, okay. Like, there's something going on, and it doesn't just feel like it's all in their heads or whatever. Like, something very weird and supernatural does happen, but the build to it is interminable. And I think the actual payoff, at least in the moment, like the moment payoff when they all discover it, so far has not really hit for me in the way of like, oh shit, this is crazy. More of like, fucking finally.
I think for me, that scene could have happened at the beginning of where we started yesterday,
yes,
or on the stream.
And you could have even like worked your way back through some additional like, you know, narration or dialogue or whatever, just to be like, hey, here's what built to it.
I just don't think we got any more character development over the last 2 hours. Like, it just is basically the same character development. I just keep picking the same choices over and over again, the ones that lead me towards a relationship with this one other woman. So it's like, I don't know, it felt padded out in a way that was, you wanted to be like, claw your eyes out and be like, just open the damn package.
It's just bad pacing. Like, it's not the story itself. It's not the dialogue itself. It's the way they are meeting out information is just so, like I said, it feels like it's circling the drain constantly, and it's just nothing is actually happening.
Lost Records, Bloom and Rage. We'll probably finish that up next week, and then
half anyway.
Yeah, the first half, the Blooms. That's $40. That is out now with the Rage part dropping supposedly as it's scheduled
April,
now in April. Yeah, April 15th. Let's see. Void Crew. We got it. We beat Void Crew. Brad.
Still great. Did we? I don't know. We beat a boss.
Define beat.
We did a run. We did.
Okay.
We did a leg of a run.
Yeah. Yeah, it is also a run-based game. It's like a linear, you just have a thing at the top that's like 6 hops, and the last one is a boss, and we were like, what happens when you beat a boss? Is that a whole run? Turns out, no, we beat a boss, and you just start a whole new one of those.
You keep the ship and, all the upgrades and all that stuff, but
Yeah, I love that game. It is amazing. The decision to ship without the ability to ship the game, not the ship. The decision to ship the game, and I know development's hard, and you make concessions, you have to get the game out the door at some point. the inability to save your run and come back to it later is borderline catastrophic to me.
It's pretty rough.
We had such an amazing ship and run going. Like
after 2.5 hours, 3 hours, 2.5 hours ish.
That was a long stream.
Yeah.
I don't remember how much time we spent on that one run, but like, dude, we had the shit. Like, we had extra power, we had automated guns, we had like all the stuff. We had like tier 2 shields for the first time ever. Like,
we were killing it.
We were. I think we could have kept going, but we ran out of time. Like, having to just bail out on that run when we were like kind of on top of it was painful.
And it's funny. I think the devs have been in our chat for those streams. I think they said they are. That's something that's coming.
That's apparently there's a mod for it right now that you can get that maybe is a little buggy that'll help you. They'll let you save a run. But they said they are going to add the ability. But I don't want to wait for that because I want to keep playing the game.
So it's been fun. We had a great run. I think we leveled up. I think you and I were near level. You're like maybe a level or a half level above where I am. But it leveled up like 4 times, right, on that run, 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, I got all kinds of good stuff.
Super cool, super fun.
It's so awesome.
And the more you level up, the more I feel like we are getting abilities that really help get us to do even better. Boss was fun. Boss, we hit this thing where so it's run based where you go into a mission and then you extract from the mission and then you hit this like liminal space where you're like between missions. And we hit this thing where you get pulled out of your void, out of the liminal space. And it was harrowing.
We got interdicted, which like Will called it on the stream. Like if you read the Timothy Zahn Star Wars books, like that was the thing from those books was the Star Destroyer that could pull you out of hyperspace, the interdictor. Like they literally just stole that idea for this game of like, hey, we can pull you out of warp in between levels. When you think, because you don't get the chance to repair your ship until you move on to the next area.
You could, but it's super hard.
You could, but you'd be getting so
peppered,
just battered by the enemies as you were trying to leave. But if you get that, if you hit that interdiction event, then you now have to do this really hard combat challenge before you've had a chance to repair your ship from the last one.
Yeah,
it's you're not kidding. It is rough.
It was cool, and we did it.
But we made it. Yeah. We made it. Like chat. I think there was a point. I don't know if it was that run or the one before it. There was a point where we were down to 1% hull.
Yeah,
and we pulled it out somehow, and like chat was pretty excited about that.
Yeah, that was like, a cool one.
That game is really demanding in a very fun way, and it's just so crazy playing the different roles because like when we did the boss. I gathered that the boss was just kind of a giant ball of fire that we were fighting. Is that correct?
Pretty much just summoning either giant lasers or smaller lasers.
Yeah, but like you were piloting and Will was gunning. So I was on like kind of engineering duty, running back and forth, charging thrusters and repairing, doing engine trim,
reloading guns,
defects, or reloading stuff. I never got a good look at that thing. All I could see through the little slats in the windows was just like lights exploding everywhere the whole time as I was frantically running back and forth. So
that's funny. Yeah.
Like
so
like what
in my view is
bananas, right? Like what you see in different roles is really crazy.
Because I had to dodge. They were like, it would make these big fiery balls around it. I had to dodge up and down, left and right, and then boost or attempt to boost. I didn't always have to do it depending on where I was when this giant laser would come out. And just hope Will was firing constantly on the right thing, and then hoping you were recharging the boost, because at any moment, if I didn't have boost ready and Will didn't have ammo ready, the whole thing would fall apart. So it was a real synergy of everybody kind of trying to get their stuff together, which was super fun.
Yeah,
and getting out of there with the 1% shields was cool.
Yeah, if you've got a group of 4 people and you want to play it's like pretty technically demanding, like there's a lot to learn in that game, to be fair. Yeah. But like if you're down for a relatively complicated multiplayer experience that is incredibly exhilarating, like you have to check this game out.
I'd say even 3 seems
3 is doable.
Yeah, fun.
We're getting on top of it, but it was definitely a rough couple streams before we got there.
I still don't know if I'm ready to learn that bigger ship, even with 4 people.
I think you definitely need 4 people for the big ship.
Yeah. That's Void Crew, $25, available on PC. 1.0, it is out.
It's out. I think that was in early access, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so. I remember we talked about it for a bit, wanting to get in there.
I wonder if they're going to add more to that game, because I sure hope they do.
Yeah, I hope it's doing well. It's very fun. Got some real good bones on it.
Yep.
Alex, how is your Like a Dragon pirate Yakuza in Hawaii doing?
Continuing along, it was very funny. I guess where I left off last time was literally before the opening credits, which was still over 2 hours into the game.
Wow.
but they do a full-on musical number for credits. Like, it is a straight-up old, like, 50s, 60s style pirate movie, but them doing a big, like, musical number on the deck of the ship you get, which is pretty funny.
Does anybody slide down the sails?
I do believe there's a fair amount of sliding around. I don't remember all of the different choreography, but it seemed very in keeping with classic musical style.
Okay.
But now I'm doing the pirating. I'm actually on a boat. I'm going around and I'm doing things. And the way I would describe the pirating in this game is, what if Sega made a pirate arcade game?
Okay.
Like the boat.
What if they did?
The boat mechanics are pretty simple. It's really just like move forward, move, like brake. You can drift because, of course, you can with a pirate boat. And you have like forward machine guns and you have your side cannons. You get up into the general aim range of one of your side cannons. A reticle will turn a color on whatever ship you're targeting, and it will just auto hit as long as you are facing the right direction. None of it is that complicated. I'm sure there are bigger battles, harder battles that will come along, but by and large, it is very streamlined. It is just the all killer, no filler version of, here, go do this pirate shit.
Do you like the pirate stuff more than what you were doing, or it's you'd want to get back to the other stuff? Or
the other stuff is still there. Like, when you go off an island, like, part of it is you have a treasure map. You're going to go find all these pieces of treasure around these different islands. But then when you just go back into the story, it's still just the beat 'em up. Like, that stuff is still there. And in fact, when you do raid certain bigger ships, it just turns into a beat 'em up on the fucking deck of that ship you're raiding.
Is that story based, or you can kind of grapple and raid a ship whenever you want?
So far, most of the ships I've just been sinking. Maybe I shouldn't be doing that, but so far I've not had a lot of opportunities to go and raid a specific ship.
Okay. It took Yakuza to do it right. Finally, our pirate game that we all needed.
Black Flag is still a great game.
It is.
Sea of Thieves became a great game.
Yeah.
Skull and Bones came out. Is a game. This is occupying a much more arcadey space. It's like if Pirates was Crazy Taxi, like that level of just sort of like, it's goofy and simple.
Is there a pirate? It's like Sid Meier's Pirates. Is that the one that's
a strategy game?
Sure.
Is that the one people? Is that like the pirate game?
That's a great pirate game.
Yeah,
but it is a strategy game.
Monkey Island. Is that the pirate game people want?
I think Black Flag is generally pretty well regarded.
I like Black Flag, sure.
Yeah.
I feel like, was there a pirate arcade game of some kind?
There probably is. I'm just not thinking of.
I feel like there was a game in arcades that was about pirates.
You're thinking of a Big Buccaneer Hunter.
That's the one. Yep. That's the one.
Alex, you're just shaking your head.
Mm-hmm.
What else can I do?
I had written down DreamWorks but cornier for the episode title, but I might have to swap that out now.
Yeah, I think that's the one.
I'm trying to think of a pirate thing that was solely pirates. I mean, like Alex said, there must be, right? There must be.
I will say one thing. They've done the thing I was hoping they would do with the Amnesia storyline, is that we are no longer at the point where, like, there's a big reveal of, He goes to Nele Island very early on. He sees the other Yakuza, and they're like, "Hey, boss, you're alive. That's great." And he's like, "Yeah, I don't remember any of you motherfuckers." So they aren't doing the thing where there's all these people that still have to find out about the amnesia. They've just gotten over that hump. Everyone knows he has amnesia, and they're moving on from there. It is not going to be an ongoing of, like, everyone has to reveal that he has amnesia.
But he still has amnesia.
He still has amnesia.
Selective amnesia.
Yes.
Oh, I found it. It was Skull and Crossbones.
Oh, is it a light gun shooter?
No, it's like a side-scrolling, kind of like a beat-em-up, but it had some like really interesting sword combat. I think you can like attack high and low, like some actual technique to the sword fighting.
Interesting.
Who made Skull and Crossbones? I cannot remember. You can find YouTube videos of it and stuff.
That is...
Unfortunately, Skull and Bones is currently taking up all the SEO when you search Skull and Crossbones.
Yeah, seriously.
Man, I gotta load up MAME and play some Skull and Crossbones. I haven't thought about this game in almost 40 years, probably.
I don't know if I've seen... There's apparently a Nintendo port?
That might be right.
Wow. I don't think I've ever actually seen this game.
Yeah, I have no idea where I played it, but...
Is it like Karateka, but like pirates?
No, it's like... It's a little more... And this is very, very thinly remembered on my part. More Double Dragon, like more side-scrolling. God, here's a part where you're fighting ninjas, apparently.
Oh, man, that box art, though, I remember. That Tenjin box art.
Yeah, this is a late Atari thing.
Yeah, I don't think I ever saw any home versions, but I definitely played this in an arcade at some point.
Fascinating. I don't remember this at all.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Double Dragon type game, but with a little bit of actual technique in the sword fighting.
It looks kind of cool though.
Yeah, it's really neat.
Is it Tenjin or Tengen?
Tengen, if it's the Japanese word. Except I mean,
Okay.
they're not a Japanese company, but like
Sir,
I think that's what they named it after.
did somebody ever do we gotta get no clip on it. A good documentary on Tengen of like what the hell was happening there.
There is a channel that comes up in my feed occasionally on YouTube called Video Game Historian.
Okay.
Who does have a good long video. I think it's primarily about the Tengen Tetris
Okay.
controversy, because that was the big,
Right.
or that was one of the big flashpoints for that whole thing. But I think there's quite a bit of just history of who Tengen was and where they came from and why, and how they got around the
Seal of approval.
and also like the lockout stuff on the NES.
Are they just out there just making games? Just making who cares? Just make a game.
Man, they didn't make it past 1994.
What they seemed to be doing was illegal. I don't know if it was.
I think the court
just
case
say-
did not go in their favor.
Let's call it extra legal.
That is that is Skull and Crossbones, but that is Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. And Brad, last but not least here, I feel like you and I have been chipping away at Avowed.
Yes, I still extremely like that game.
So I do too. I've got, did you wind up getting your third party member yet?
Oh, I've got them. I'm still like, I've not had a lot of time to play it. It's been kind of on the back burner with new games coming out, but I'm also just kind of wringing everything I can out of that first area. Like I've got the quest to go to Paradise, the big capital city, but I just haven't gone in there yet because I'm still kind of trying to fill out every bit of map. But I assume that's where you get the third party member,
Yes.
so I should probably go do that.
And I think where your some of your story is going to kick off proper too. I still really like it. I haven't hit a wall yet where I'm like, it's grindy, so that's a good thing. I'm just going to continue plugging away at it.
It feels like the power ramp is pretty quick at a certain point. Like early on, like the combat is, like it's not, I wasn't dying constantly, but it's fairly demanding. And then all of a sudden, after I did that big dungeon we talked about last time, like you get a really good sword at the end of that thing. And I've been finding more named weapons. Like
I guess
I'm just
if
like,
you use a sword, I mean,
the thing's got, does it have health? I think it has health, steal, and flame effect on it. It's a pretty good sword.
did you make your choice?
Yes.
Okay. Did it seem like it was? It almost feels more consequential than they let on. I don't know. I'm very curious to see what the heck happens with any of that.
I made the I want to see how this is going to play out choice. Like I made the maybe morally questionable choice because I've got to know what's going to happen with this giant robot statue, this god statue thing.
Yeah.
And then kind of nothing happens.
Well, it kind of feels like, all right, check back in 40 hours.
Like they kind of allude to maybe something will happen here later.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
I really like it so far. Continuing to play it. We'll probably check back in, but nothing too new to report.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably be chipping away at that one for some weeks to come.
Yeah. All right. I think that's it for games.
Yeah.
Some fun games out there. Next Fest, I believe, is over. I don't know if those games have gone away, but
they've got an interesting landing page up still, even though it's over. They've got the top 50 still up.
Interesting.
On the Steam front page. They're like, hey, here are the 50 most played demos from this event if you want to go check them out.
I feel like top 50 says a lot about where Steam Next Fest is in terms of there's a lot of demos out there.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take another break here. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about the news, so stick around. All right, we are back, and it is time for the news. Now, I believe it was last week we talked about Monolith and Warner Brothers, and Monolith and Warner Brothers basically shutting them down.
Yes.
And
canceling Wonder Woman, the whole thing.
Yeah, and Warner Brothers basically feeling like, what the fuck is Warner Brothers doing, right? But I don't mean to swear here, but when it comes to closing Monolith, look, I got a little emotional, okay? It's a company
understandably.
And Brad, you mentioned, which will come up in a second because you've got a story here about this that Schreier was reporting on about a lot of the maybe upper management, some key personnel having left Monolith before. So, Brad, what's the story we got here?
Yeah, and I didn't mention it last week, but some of the names I saw that had left Monolith in that leadership exodus are people that I remember seeing back in the early Lithtech days. Like back in the days of plan updates in the first-person shooter scene. I remember some of the names. So these were like old school Monolith people. Jason Schreier, who is of Bloomberg, who has kind of been at the forefront of delivering information about this story, was on a kind of funny podcast recently and kind of went into a lot more detail about what happened behind the scenes over there. And the answer may shock you. Corporate management messing with things.
What?
May have had a lot to do with it. Like, the craziest part to me is that apparently post Shadow of War, the second Lord of the Rings game they did, they were working on a new IP. They were not working on Wonder Woman directly after Shadow of War shipped in 2017. They were working on their own new thing that would have expanded the Nemesis system substantially until management came in at some point and basically decided, we're not doing new IP anymore. You're making a Wonder Woman game now. Which is what triggered all the leadership to leave.
And look, to be clear, I'm not because they had to make Wonder Woman, because I don't really have anything against Wonder Woman. I'm ing that, like, hey, they had a thing they wanted to make, and then the studio came in and said, no, you're making this license thing. Right,
how demoralizing is that to a game developer who has spent at this point years of their life working on their own thing that now management is just like, nope, you're not making that anymore. Now you're going to churn out a franchise.
Especially after you're coming off of a Lord of the Rings license thing, and you're like, hey, we have this other property we'd like to invest in. We've made a lot of our own properties.
And we've come up with this incredibly lauded, like, industry-defining new mechanic that we want to work on and expand.
So that was 2021-ish when that all happened? Okay.
Yes. So then, obviously a lot of chaos with leadership leaving. They had to pivot to the Wonder Woman game. From the sound of it, let me just find... Video Games Chronicle did a good write-up of his podcast appearance. This is their language. It's claimed that the most recent version of the Wonder Woman game being worked on before the studio was closed would have eliminated the Nemesis system and instead been more of a traditional action-adventure game akin to God of War. So, like, way to go patenting game mechanics and then
never using them,
and then putting your studio in a position where they can't even get something out the door with your patented game mechanic.
Well, I mean, the thing they say is that the version of the Nemesis system they were trying to implement was actually kind of a reverse Nemesis system. It was about creating allies along the way using some of the same mechanics that you would with the Nemesis thing. So I can maybe understand, like, having to experiment with that and trying to turn that into that particular application might have been challenging. That, to me, does not say pivot entirely off of the thing you are known for doing, but then again, losing all of your creative leadership at the top, I have to imagine they were not in a position where they could really fight that in a major way.
Yeah, that's what I mean. To be clear, it was not for lack of trying that they didn't have that feature in there. It's, if you go from one project canceled completely to a second project having to be rebooted halfway through, like, of course, and a deadline looming, of course, you start shedding features to just put a game together and get it out the door because that's what management is demanding. Again, I'm putting it on the management here, creating the environment where they could not do something more interesting with this stuff.
Right.
Well, at least they could then get to the point where they could copyright some kind of reverse nemesis or fremesis or
what have you.
That's a cool idea. Like, that would have been really interesting to see, actually, like, to build up like, you can think about going back to, like, stuff like Assassin's Creed Brotherhood of, like, recruiting people and sending them out to do missions type stuff. And, like, it kind of got lost when Shadow of War came out with all the, like, that game was kind of rotten with microtransactions in a really bad way. So the good things that game did kind of got buried a little bit. But, like, that game had a whole, like, they built a whole, like, strategy game out of the Nemesis system in the second Middle-earth game. Because you were building hierarchies of people in each territory and assigning them roles, and, like, kind of taking over the game territory by territory. Like, they could have done a lot with allied Nemesis stuff that they clearly were starting to touch on in that game. So yeah, it's, like, extra a bummer that never came together.
And like you said earlier, and we reported on, that game is now canceled.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be because that studio is now also canceled.
Wonder Woman. Will Wonder Woman get a game? Probably not anytime soon.
Maybe up to James Gunn now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think that's the first one up. It's Superman.
Superman's always the first one up.
I mean, maybe someone will finally make a good Superman game.
What are you talking about?
It's impossible.
What?
How do you make a good Superman game?
I don't know. No one's ever done it.
Because it's really hard. It's like you gotta. I'm not getting into the Superman stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I might make the argument about most Superman fiction. How do you make an interesting thing out of a guy who's invincible?
They killed him once. That worked for a while.
They've done it. I have been convinced by the Superman fans out there that it is possible. I'm just not sure in video game form. It's probable.
Here's what it comes down to. You can very easily hand wave a lot of stuff away by saying they have kryptonite guns. Like, that really is a way that you can just kind of get around some of the, let's just say, imperviousness of the character.
You're not wrong, but it also just feels like a cycle of one-upsmanship that just kind of renders everything totally ineffectual. It's like, why is he invincible if we're just going to start inventing new ways for him to not be invincible? It was like when they came up with cortosis weave in the Star Wars games, because clearly you can't just have a lightsaber slicing through everything constantly, or you don't have a game.
Right.
Yeah. So Lex Luthor built kryptonite robots, and now, but you should still be able to. I don't know. Superman's very, very powerful. So maybe
I've heard this.
Yeah. Maybe you blow up the sun. And I don't know.
I'll say again, the most interesting thing that has happened to Superman in my lifetime is that he died for a while.
Definitely, I still have my copy of that somewhere in its little white bag.
I absolutely do as well. And I also have maybe the first 2 or 3 issues of Steel, because that's the kind of moron I was back then.
But there are very creative people out there that can figure out how to do it, and I have faith in them. And if not, the AIs will do it. They'll figure out a way. They'll just feed a million Superman issues into an AI, and then also feed Superman 64 in there, and just tell it to make the best video game ever. All right. Moving on. Brad, you and I, both proud owners of the PlayStation VR 2.
Sure.
But like suckers, paid retail. Went out
How
there.
How dare you?
Paid the early adopter tax. Boy, this was a fast price drop.
Yeah, well, I think it's been about 2 years, right?
Has it been that long already?
It has been 2 years since.
Oh, I probably reset the clock on the PC adapter in my mind.
Yeah, that was just last fall. Let me just triple check. Yeah, we just passed the 2-year mark since release.
All
so
right.
it's
that's reasonable.
I'd say more. It's a big price drop rather than a fast one.
Yeah,
because it is 100. So it's $150 off. They now have dropped it to $400 in the US. 450 euros.
Which is not nothing, but is considerable.
That's a pretty substantial price.
Oh yeah,
cut. The first PSVR got a price cut as well at some point. I don't remember how long it took, but
yeah,
pretty big,
significant.
Drop. Yeah, pretty big drop. And if it works for you as a PC headset, that's a pretty good deal.
Have they mentioned sales for that thing up to this point?
Not really.
Okay, yeah, because that's kind of what I'm thinking is maybe this much of a precipitous price drop, a year after the thing came out?
2 years.
2 years. Yeah, it's still pretty precipitous. Like, usually that feels more significant than a 2-year after the fact price drop.
I'm trying to look and see very quickly here without spending too much time if that PC adapter is still readily available on their PlayStation Direct. It is not in the latest, so let's see if it's in the accessories.
Yes, it is still in stock.
Great. I mean, you get that headset and you get that adapter.
Yeah. I mean, obviously that adapter not perfect. I had some controller issues with the Bluetooth.
Yeah.
But if you can get it to work for you, like that's for the quality of that headset, that's pretty good for a PC headset.
Yeah. That's weird. When you click on it, it lists it as okay, it's still $60. There it goes. Yeah. I had some issues too, but my issues were minor. Like there were more annoyances, and then it was mostly the tracking of the doodads controllers.
Yeah. I mean, is there going to be a groundswell of new PlayStation VR 2 development going on anytime soon? I don't know. Does not seem like it. They barely mentioned it at the last State of Play, like we talked about.
Get your Hitman.
Yes. Actually, yes. That's pretty cool.
That's PlayStation VR 2. If you were holding out for a price drop, well, it's happening. And that is price dropped. That is price dropped, right?
Yeah, that is in effect now. Yeah. Did you finish Half-Life Alyx?
No.
Okay.
No, I should.
Okay, for a second there, I had to parse that you were saying, did you finish Half-Life Alyx, and not did you finish Half-Life, Alyx?
Yeah,
did you?
Nice.
I mean, did you? No. You didn't? Man.
Did you finish Half-Life Alyx?
The only Half-Life I've ever played is Half-Life 2.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know how well Half-Life 1 would hold up now. I mean, I'm sure it would be fine. Would it make the impact it did then? Almost certainly not.
I should ask my not ask. I should see if my son wants to play it, because I feel like he's always up for like video game history style stuff.
I never checked out Black Mesa. Did you guys ever look at that?
The most I know about Black Mesa is all the weird stuff that happened when Dan did that quick look with it. Was Drew, was it? And then people were getting really angry about it.
Yeah, I think that was early on before people had fully wrapped their heads around Dan's persona.
Also, I mean, I know about what it is, but I did not check it out.
Yeah.
Is that available on like consoles?
What's that?
Like Black Mesa? Like,
I don't think so. I think Black Mesa was just Steam, just PC.
I think that's correct.
Is there like a Half-Life 1 redone version on console?
Just not that I know of.
All right. Yeah, that's a good
I don't think Half-Life got a console release at all other than the canceled Dreamcast version. Oh no, it came out on PS2, didn't it? I think Half-Life did come out on PS2. Yes, it did. I think I want to say the Dreamcast version leaked at some point a few years ago.
Oh.
If I'm not mistaken.
Also did not finish Call of the Mountain. Which,
the Horizon.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
I should probably finish that too. More of a toy box, it felt like. All right, moving on from the PSVR 2 and its price drop. One of the signs of the apocalypse, one of the
how many more do we need, man?
Well, we got two more.
All right.
Two more. But one of the seals has been broken, and Gears is coming to a PlayStation 5.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Sorry.
Says a leaker.
It says a leaker.
And they're never wrong.
Leaker, Xtasis, I think, is the leaker here. It seems like he's got a track record, not a perfect one, but like a decent one. So, and by not perfect, I mean like, he got the dates of reveals wrong. It's like, oh, they're going to reveal this in June. Like, no, they're revealing it now, which is actually about Tony Hawk, which we'll talk about in a second. But anyway, point is, like, there's a good chance there is fire here to go with the smoke. But we don't know for sure. But what he's saying as of this morning is that there is a Gears of War collection of some sort getting announced in June at their kind of Xboxes, like, what would have been the E3 showcase. And it will be coming to the PlayStation 5.
I could believe it.
So here we are, Gears on a PS5.
Possibly, but
I feel like hasn't that come up relatively recently, like in on the tier list of like, oh my god, an Xbox franchise on a PlayStation, like I think Gears is up there.
Yes,
it's like number 3 or at least 3.
Maybe 2.
I mean, it's Halo is 1, right?
Yeah,
Halo is definitely number 1 with a bullet.
Halo is a weird one because, like, obviously it is the Xbox franchise of record, but also like the franchise has been on enough of a back foot for a while.
Yeah,
that like, does it actually make a splash? I'm
thinking more symbolically.
Yeah, symbolically it's huge for sure. And like, if they put Master Chief Collection on there, like, hey, those are some very good Halo games.
Totally,
people still love.
And then Forza obviously is a weird one with Gran Turismo.
Yeah, Forza's up there.
I feel like Forza is the one that probably doesn't happen.
It's a weird one.
You mean motorsport, right?
I'm talking about motorsport. Yeah. Because I know Horizon has in fact made its way, hasn't it?
Well, it's coming like in spring sometime.
No, like true Forza, like true car head Forza, the Gran Turismo of Forza.
That said, it will be coming to Switch. One specifically.
Switch 1. There you go.
Gears is up there.
No details about what's in this collection. Also, what they're going to do to it. Like, are they going to remaster the games in the collection? They already did that for the first Gears, like 10 years ago now. God.
And that makes sense, again, according to the speculation and the leaker, the E-Day stuff will be targeting a 2026 window. So
yes, E-Day, the new Gears game, supposedly next year, which super unsurprising that that's not coming out this year. But
if you get your collection out there and they do a little bit of work on it and get people excited for more Gears, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
How many Gears do we have? Was 1, 2, 3, 4 in Judgment?
6 counting Judgment.
6.
There were 5 main Gears games plus Judgment.
There's no way this collection has 6 games in it.
No, I don't think so. That seems
2 or 3?
Seems crazy.
What's the Marcus? What's the pure Marcus?
It's the first
run?
three. It's the
Three?
first
Okay.
1 through 3 trilogy is the Marcus Phoenix story.
That's as
Okay.
pure as it gets.
I think
Yeah.
that's your collection if they put something out.
That would be my guess. Like maybe they throw Judgment in there as a gimme.
That's the Baird one, right? That's the
Yes.
Okay.
Baird.
Oh, Baird.
I don't know how Gears is going to hold up. Like, I'll play a new one. Like, E-Day looks pretty interesting, but like the original games.
So I played one
like,
recently
like
with
the
my
stop
son.
And, remember Stop and Pop?
So I was stopping to end up popping. I think they still hold up okay.
Do they? Yeah.
So there was my perspective, which had nostalgia, and there was my son's perspective, which had zero nostalgia, and was just like, sure, the enemies are even more bullet spongy. If you can believe that. Going back, like you just unload into them.
Yep. That's the thing, actually, that sticks out in my mind. It's not the cover shooter aspect of it. It's the, dude, you just dump clip after clip into these guys who kind of just take it and keep coming at you.
I remember the criticism at the time, and I didn't necessarily feel it. Going back, I was like, oh, man, no, I think everyone was right. You just sit there and dump into these locusts, and then they finally fall on the floor, and then you chainsaw them.
Yep.
All right, that's Gears. An old franchise, maybe getting a new breath of life in the near future here.
Yep. Yes, we're moving into our old games block for the week. the most exciting kind of video games. Strong week for stuff happening with old games.
Brad, why don't you kick it off or continue it?
Well, they finally revealed that Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 remaster that I feel like has leaked a bajillion times in the last month. Coming out in July on everything.
Sure.
As one would hope. It's got new skaters, new parks.
And it's got the Iron Galaxy logo on it.
Does it really?
Yes.
Oh, I missed that.
At the end of the trailer, that is the studio. Is not Toys for Bob or whoever it was that did the last remaster. It is them.
No, it was, wasn't it Vicarious Visions that did?
Vicarious Visions, you're right, yes.
Which then got renamed and then I think got folded in, or are they still a studio? I can't remember.
So they were being roped into the void that is becoming a Call of Duty support studio, but I don't really know what became of them once the Microsoft buyout happened.
They are Blizzard Albany now.
Okay.
So
they were also doing Diablo support, I think, maybe,
I believe
as
that,
well.
yes.
Yeah.
I believe that's the case.
But anyway, yes, Iron Galaxy apparently is the studio that has been tasked with making this happen.
Yeah, like good for Iron Galaxy, bummer for Vicarious Visions.
Because they did such a good job with that first one.
Yeah, like people really liked that first remaster. I have like very little nostalgia for Tony Hawk. Does this move any needles?
Oh yeah. Yeah, this is what I wanted. Like, honestly, I would be perfectly fine. I mean, what I would have been most perfectly fine with was Vicarious Visions got to make 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and then they just stopped doing this for a while because past that point, there are good games, but they aren't games that I hold the same level of like personal nostalgia for.
Yeah.
4 is kind of my cutoff.
Tony Hawk games are like Thug and Project 8 and just all over the place.
American Wasteland, all that other shit. Yeah.
I like they loom large, and I definitely played one of them. There was like Tony Hawk 4X or something on the Xbox? Is that what it was?
Was it
3X?
I think that was 3
with custom soundtracks, and you could like put your own soundtrack in.
Yeah, I remember something. I never played that version of it, but I remember I think that was for 4. I could be wrong, but I think that was for 4.
Yeah, but like I can't remember. All I know is the fights that would happen about people who liked the what's the manual or whatever, the changes. There was like something with like you could. Is that what it was?
The
something
revert
with
was
change.
the big innovation in 3, and that's kind of why 3 and 4 make sense together and not bundled with the other two. Is that mechanical change really changed kind of the dynamic of how the combo system works?
But it always had this thing about like people who would get really emotional about what if the revert is it, or is that linking tricks together? Is that how it works?
It's that thing that lets you like flip the board around and keep the combo going.
Okay. It felt to me like when you guys would argue about the run button in Mortal Kombat,
Sure.
being like, "Oh, okay, like I don't really. This is beyond my out of my depth here." But like people get really worked up about this stuff.
Yes, they do.
So yeah, I think it's cool that these are coming out. Like Tony Hawk is, again, I think it looms large in a way that is beloved. As a series, and these games always were talked about fondly.
people want skateboarding games, like that the last remaster did well. The indie space is now replete with games that at least have skateboarding mechanics in them, if not the outright skateboarding games. Skate 4 is finally happening. Like, skating never went away. It's just that the demand for it in video game form, I think, got a little oversaturated with the sheer volume of Tony Hawk games and then also the Skate franchise and other stuff back then. But then people were left wanting, and now they're ready again.
Yep.
I did see some chatter about people who have dug into it more than I would spend time digging into it, about maybe some changes. I stuff that I don't know too much about, but timers in 4 or, I don't know.
I forget. 4 is actually, of the first 4, it's the one I've played the least of all those, though I remember liking it. I don't remember what all the changes were for 4. I remember some of them, though, were definitely like, I just went right back to playing Tony Hawk 3.
Oh, this was about people saying that maybe they have changed it for this collection.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But I don't know enough about it. People should just look it up on their own.
Yeah.
Yeah, this sounds like an interesting package because it sounds like more of a unified thing. It's not like just pick 3 or 4 off a menu, It's like there is a career mode where you can play through the career of 3 or 4, but they're also kind of just mashing it all together, with new skaters and parks, and it's kind of all one big thing now, like kind of an umbrella package with.
And I assume probably new
content.
soundtrack songs as well, in addition to the old ones.
Yeah, I think this says new and old, but no Bam Margera.
No.
Yeah, that is. I mean, look, if you're just going for pure like authenticity's sake, it's kind of a bummer not having him there because he was, a notable skater of that time and one of the more marquee names from those games. Again, what eventually Bam Margera's takeover of that franchise is sort of like the creative force. I don't know, that I didn't love where that stuff went, but Bam Margera's had big problems over the years. He got kicked off that last Jackass movie pretty early on into filming because he got into such a big altercation with the director, Jeff Tremaine, to the point where he had to file a restraining order against him.
Jeez.
He had major drug and alcohol problems. Those have kind of oscillated between dealt with and not dealt with. I don't know where he's at these days. I think he's doing a lot of podcast appearances, which probably doesn't bode well, but I don't know that all his shit is sorted. The only thing I know is that I think he got divorced because he was married to a lady that grew up in my hometown. She is friends with people that I grew up with.
Okay.
I saw him at my local bar one night when I was there for Thanksgiving some years ago, and he was just hanging out with people that I used to hang out with. It was
all
weird.
right. That is kind of weird.
Was Tony Hawk the game we did the event for where there was the guy who was like, I love video games? Remember that interview? You guys, somebody must have been there. It was a GameSpot one. No, Giant Bomb one. It was a Giant Bomb one. Maybe it was Ryan
long
was
ago.
there.
Yeah, I would not have been involved in Tony Hawk coverage almost certainly.
It was probably a skate thing then.
Yeah, yes. I think Ryan was a big skate guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, he loves skate.
So this is July 11th, and not only can you get it on your PlayStation 5, you can get it on your PlayStation 4.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah, why not?
Keep it going. And cross-platform.
Yes.
Multiplayer. So get it everywhere.
I'm glad they're doing it. I have to imagine if they decide to do anything else with Tony Hawk after this, it will probably be a new thing and not just another remaster, because I don't think the demand for the Tony Hawk games after this is nearly as high.
Yeah, I think that's right.
This had to be in pretty, this was, you said the rumors had been circulating for a while, pretty deep development before the Microsoft stuff was even being talked about, right?
Well, I think they said Vicarious Visions had at least started the process of working on a 3 and 4 remaster before they got shunted.
Okay.
But I don't know how far along they got.
Okay. Microsoft looking for some wins.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cashing in on that Activision purchase.
There are worse things you could reboot right now. I think, speaking personally, I would love it if they tried a Guitar Hero reboot. They shouldn't right now. The market is not there.
Well, Brad, speaking of worse things you could reboot.
Oh, man.
Oh, my God.
I don't know. This is definitely the weirdest news
not the
of the
worst,
week.
but it's pretty far down.
I think this is definitely probably the weirdest. Somebody's bringing back Acclaim. In name only.
I love the Acclaim. I think Acclaim had offices on Long Island.
Acclaim, they were extremely a New York, New Jersey area publisher.
So like,
wait,
Acclaim,
were they really?
Yes.
I thought they were big in Texas for some reason.
They may have also had people in Texas, but I know like some of the people, at least at late Acclaim, were very like, let's just say I know an executive that used to work at Acclaim, or I did, because he worked at MTV Games. That dude is the most fucking like that dude straight up looked like someone that wandered in out of Boiler Room.
Can you say the last name of the person?
I'd rather not get into it.
We'll talk about it later. I'm looking at Wikipedia right now, and I feel like maybe the person you mentioned earlier is on this page.
Probably.
Anyway.
Are they founders?
They were not a founder, I don't think.
Okay.
This is very much the same treatment that Atari and THQ and other names have gotten, it seems like, in recent years of like new business people coming and buying the trademark and name and whatever, starting a new company with the old name on it.
Possibly to sell you something nefarious.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there was a little more continuity to modern Atari than that, but like, THQ Nordic was just the THQ name slapped on a different company, for example. This seems to be basically the same case. So really no connection to Acclaim, although boy, talk about a name you haven't thought about in a long time.
It's a name I haven't heard in a long, long time.
I guess for people who don't know, Acclaim was... What was their acclaim to fame? Like
volume.
Tons of volume, tons of licensed games on the NES and Super Nintendo and Genesis.
If you were playing of which were garbage.
If you were playing a licensed game and it wasn't made by THQ, it was probably made by Acclaim.
It was probably made by LJN, which I believe they also owned.
Was that LJ them? I thought LJN was part of... You might be right.
I think either they bought LJN or LJN was a subsidiary of theirs.
Was Majesco rolled into that somewhere?
No, that was a different thing.
Okay.
So licensed games out the ass.
Many.
Is really
and Turok, which is a licensed game.
Yeah, I guess Turok technically comic book.
It was a comic book thing, yeah.
Literally like their first few years of like, my God, man. Rambo, Airwolf, WrestleMania, Knight Rider.
So some of those are LJN games, to be fair. So that's definitely under that banner.
Total Recall, Back to the Future, Simpsons, Punisher, like they were just the licensed game company Beetlejuice.
And I'd say they had about a 1 out of 10 hit rate.
Yeah, they did all those bad early Simpsons games. I mean, they did the home versions of Mortal Kombat back before Midway was in home publishing. Anyway,
yes,
Acclaim,
LJN was definitely a subsidiary.
Okay,
confirmed.
Yeah, I thought that was right. I always get them mixed up with Ultra, who was Konami's.
Right.
Like, hey, we want to put out more NES games than you will allow us to sub-brand.
Karate Kid, Jaws, Major League Baseball.
They did make the Jaws game, didn't they?
Roger Rabbit.
Oh, that fucking inscrutable Roger Rabbit game.
Yep.
Maybe the single NES game I am still the angriest about this far into my life.
I had that game. It was weird.
It's really weird.
Anyway, it's just weird to see the Acclaim logo floating around in the mix again. Actually, I don't know for sure if they're going to use the old logo, but we're really burying the lead here.
And it's what a lead.
Alex, can you tell us who Jeff Jarrett is?
Yeah, this would probably take a much longer explanation than I want to force you through right now. But so Jeff Jarrett is a wrestler of some note. He is a guy who I would describe as fairly successful, from an old wrestling family, and a guy who has been a major player in a lot of different companies over the years, including WWE, though I don't think he was ever world champion there, but he was WCW champion. He was a bunch of different indie promotion champions. Somewhere around the mid teens of this century, he started a company called Global Force Wrestling that, as far as I can tell, ran about maybe 30 shows over the course of 6 or 7 years. Some people were champion of that thing, but the whole thing felt kind of like a pyramid scheme. And then at a certain point, it actually just kind of turned into one, because he was literally using the Global Force brand to hawk gold, like as a, you should buy gold kind of thing. There's literally, I think they memory hold the video that he recorded for it, but there are still images out there of him hawking his gold via Global Force Wrestling. Anyway, this is all to say that Jeff Jarrett, God love him, is maybe a scam king among scam kings in wrestling. He is a guy who has managed to, and I don't mean this in like a wildly criminal way, I mean he is one of the most carny people still working in wrestling to this day.
Well, he's on the board of the new Acclaim.
And that's fucking perfect.
Well, they also made a ton of wrestling games, Acclaim, or put out. They did.
They were mostly terrible. Some of the Super Nintendo ones they made were okay, but like they made, for instance, early on, they made that WrestleMania NES game, which is not actually very good. Much later, they made those N64 games like WWF Attitude and ECW Anarchy Rules, which are garbage. And then they made those Legends of Wrestling games right before they went out of business.
It was probably also worth noting that Acclaim has been bounced around and carved up and pieces sold off
many different places.
2 decades.
I did not realize, but there was an entire section in their Wikipedia page entitled "Asset Selling,"
which
is long
because they went very bankrupt.
A lot of the IP that Acclaim once owned has already been sold off. So this is really might just be a resurrection of the name, pretty much.
I think they are going to use the Acclaim brand to sell you shit of ill repute.
We'll see. I don't know.
That's what I think this is headed toward, because there's no other reason you would get Jeff fucking Jarrett involved.
Trying to see who got that NBA Jam. Who?
Well, I mean, Midway owned NBA Jam, but the thing is, Acclaim apparently made some versions of NBA Jam. I think home versions, and they were not well regarded home versions.
Yeah, I think NBA Jam for Acclaim was the same as Mortal Kombat. They were
just publishing.
Yeah, well, they did development as well, at least on MK.
Yeah,
because it was I think it was Sculptured Software made the Super NES version of Mortal Kombat, and Probe made the Genesis one.
That sounds right.
Oh, it looks like EA bought the rights.
Okay. To NBA, yeah, of course. EA, EA has tried a couple times to put out to resurrect NBA Jam.
It says Wikipedia on NBA Jam says Midway continued its own series of NBA games with NBA Hang Time.
There's the NBA Street games.
After the release of NBA Jam Tournament Edition, Acclaim, the publisher of the home versions of NBA Jam, acquired exclusive rights to release games under the NBA Jam name. Then Midway did NBA Jam Hang Time, and then it sounds like Electronic Arts picked it up later. So all right.
Like some of the actual like original IP that Acclaim had, I had to go remind myself, stuff like Revolt, like the RC car, Mario Kart-ish kind of game, Extreme G, Vex, Fur Fighters.
They were the original publishers of Burnout.
Yes, right.
The first two Burnout games before EA took over.
Super easy to forget about that at this point.
I mean, they're the most forgettable of the Burnout games, to be fair. They're not terrible, but they're not what that series turned into.
Yep. All right. Yeah, we have to move on, because now I'm just looking at this Wikipedia page and seeing like events described as ancient history that I went and covered on junkets at GameSpot, like the Red Star, for example, which was like kind of a neat shooter. That was I think I saw that game on an Acclaim junket before they went out of business, if I'm not mistaken.
Really, I think if we're editorializing at all, it sounds like to me, Alex, you are, and correct me if I'm wrong. I don't want to mischaracterize. You are saying if in the future you see something with an Acclaim logo on it, maybe dig in a little deeper, but before you go, that nostalgia bone kicks in and you're like, oh, Acclaim is selling me a thing.
I think if you see the Acclaim logo approaching you, grab your wallet and run in the opposite direction.
Okay. All right. As long as it's not a mischaracterization, it sounds like we're spot on.
No, I don't know what this is going to be. Nothing about this announcement says to me this is all going to be on the up and up, and they are going to make normal video games. I feel like they are angling at something grim here, but I don't know what it is yet.
Well, I've already bought the Acclaim crypto coin, so I know I'm in good.
Yeah.
All right, Brad, let's keep it moving.
Yes, a couple more. Big banner week, like I said, for cool stuff happening in old games.
Mm-hmm.
Electronic Arts.
You heard of them?
Has released all of the source code for like 4 different Command & Conquer games.
Wild.
Interesting.
Like all of it. The games are, if I had them in front of me, let me pull the letter back up from the guy who spearheaded this whole thing. The original Command & Conquer, Red Alert, Renegade, which is not even like an RTS, that's a first-person shooter, and Command & Conquer Generals and 0 Hour. So, like, we are talking all the original source code for those games, top to bottom. Like, you can, I mean, I haven't looked into this. The guy
I clicked the GitHub page.
Yeah, dude, I don't even want to get into that because people probably find it boring, but this happens from time to time. Like, you're seeing this a little more often, like old developers, but it's mostly for companies that are defunct now, where there are no active stakeholders who will come after you. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, I can't think of a good example. I mean, it's stuff like Gex tier stuff. And it's like, the source code for Gex is up now or something like that. Or I think that happened for the first Descent or whatever. But for a company the size of EA to do it is kind of crazy. But when this does happen, occasionally I like to go just kind of peruse the code a little bit to see what it looks like. You should go look at the C++ code for the first Command & Conquer here. Is immaculately documented.
Interesting.
Like every single function has got a giant description and audit log signed and dated by every programmer who made a modification to it. It's crazy. Anyway.
And it also is probably important to note, it has the general use license at the top of the code.
It's all GPL'd actually. So it's like extremely as open and usable by anybody as it gets pretty much at this point. This is crazy to see from EA. I mean, they've dabbled with this before. They had made the like libraries for the Command & Conquer Remastered Edition open source 3 years ago or something, which was for, obviously that's a remastered version of the game they put out and were selling.
Mm-hmm.
But this is like you can criticize EA for a lot of things, but this is like,
and I will.
I started to say this is like the best case scenario for preserving an old beloved franchise like this, but this is like beyond the best case scenario, because typically people just want old games to be playable in some very accessible form, let alone like this is going to let people port Command & Conquer to the Switch, to your iPad, to Android, to whatever the fuck. Now, like, it's kind of wild. I mean, I'm sure the corporate management doesn't have any like big designs on bringing back Command & Conquer as a...
That was kind of the only like one downside to this is this signals to me we are extremely not getting any new Command & Conquer anything in a good long while.
But I think that's probably fine, because I think they tried that over the years and they couldn't dial it in, or RTS is just not really popular like it used to be anyway.
I mean, it's gotten it's regained some purchase, but you're right. It's not a thing that they could it's not a simple like, hey, we're just getting back into this space kind of thing.
Right. And like the return, the upside is not there for an EA to, like EA wants $1 billion franchise if they're going to bring something back like this. And
that ain't Command & Conquer.
That is absolutely not going to happen. So like, this is kind of really just like the best possible case. Like they literally uplifted an old school Command & Conquer modder to spearhead this whole effort. Like he's been working on the remastered stuff, and now he's been the guy shepherding this code through and getting this source code release ready to go. And I didn't even mention, they've also added Steam Workshop support to several of those games now. So like also the Steam versions of these games have like very easy built-in modding support as well now. Like it's really crazy that somebody at EA like really cares about Command & Conquer.
Someone does.
That has gone really above and beyond in making sure that it is preserved in a really nice way.
I might try just for funsies to download this code, make one text change or something somewhere, and recompile it just so like rename somebody Vinny and just like recompile it and see if it'll run.
I think you should make it a complete sequel.
I haven't looked to see if there are build instructions or not. I mean, I think the guy, yes, like the for people who care. Over the past year, I've been working alongside the amazing CNC stakeholders here today to restore the Perforce source code archives for these games back to buildable states.
Great.
So presumably, I don't know what tool chain you need to install, some 1998 version of Visual C or something, but presumably these will compile, and people will take these, like I said, and port these to every platform you can think of. It's very cool to see. I wish more companies would do this with more old games. Yeah.
I hope there's nothing nefarious in here. That would be super weird. This seems like you said, it seems like such a cool thing. Like my like spidey sense goes off, right? Like with something like, what's going on here?
What's the downside?
I mean, the craziest thing about this stuff is it probably is not that expensive to do something like this. It's like some number of people's time, of course, to make a project like this happen, but really you just need the sign off of management, right? Like we're probably not talking like some huge multi-million-dollar project here.
Oh yeah, the bigger thing is just like corporations releasing anything out.
Yeah.
But maybe this is a sign that Command & Conquer, they will do something with it, and they're trying to like seed the ground with something cool.
Let's hope.
Yeah. Look, I know at least one person who still plays Generals regularly. So
I bet that person is very stoked about this.
I should call them and ask them.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's source code, original source code.
Well, it's source code in one form. All right, big week for video game source code here. Here's the other. This is the craziest story of the week for me. Sonic Unleashed recompiled.
Over the weekend, Sonic game.
Over the weekend, out of nowhere, the Xbox 360 game Sonic Unleashed got a very nice PC port. Out of nowhere.
Well, it's not out of nowhere.
Well, no, but like
it's out of software.
It's not like they were like promoting this for weeks or months before it happened. Right. I think this kind of just appeared. There is a very nice, robust port of Sonic Unleashed out there, which I could not care less about Sonic Unleashed, but I kind of want to try this out just to try it out. because they've gone in and added like every bell and whistle you could want out of a modern PC game, like high res everything, like high frame rates, like better renderer, like they even re-implemented the achievements. The Xbox 360 achievements still work in the game, and they redid like new like UI pop-up arts just to preserve the experience of having Xbox 360 achievements pop in this thing.
Oh, weird.
So like the port itself it sounds extremely nice, but like old games are getting resurrected all the time in various forms. The crazy thing is the people who did this have also released a tool alongside this, which is basically the same thing as we talked about with the N64 last year.
Mm-hmm.
There's now a tool that can take old Xbox 360 games and basically turn their executables into human usable C++ code. So that's how they ported this game. And this is basically opening, just like with that N64 stuff we talked about last year, this is now opening the floodgates potentially for PC ports of Xbox 360 games, like native with new features, like the Sonic Unleashed has gotten. Like it's super exciting.
Worth clarifying. This was not Sega. This was not an official PC port.
Definitely not.
That's the part we were getting to.
Yeah,
I'm like, I think was it 2006? No, 2008 is when Sonic Unleashed came out. So like, is that getting into territory where a corporation might start getting antsy about this being out there? I don't know.
I would say probably.
Yeah, this is a weird one, right? Like you're probably doing something against your apps. Well, I ain't no lawyer, but I've signed a lot of EULAs. You're probably violating some EULA, right? By decompiling,
I don't know.
By whatever method you use.
I think you can call this extra legal.
I don't think you agreed to any agreement if you just have the disc, right?
Like, I can't remember what some of the Digital Millennium Copyright Act does, but there's something about decrypting and decompiling stuff in there.
Ripping a disc is technically not legal, but at the same time, it's not. I'm not sure that there's a way they could ever prosecute you for doing it if you're not sharing.
Is it circumventing encryption?
It's breaking encryption is what's not allowed under the DMCA. That's why things like DVD and Blu-ray, ripping is like so under the radar out there. But I don't think there's any. I don't think any of this decompilation stuff has been tested in court.
So the weird thing,
has any,
I don't think anyone's been prosecuted under that guideline.
Absolutely not. I mean, this is too new a phenomenon to have. But again, I don't know that there's actually really any grounds to take it to court.
But the thing I would say is, are you okay? Look, I'm not trying to make a case for anybody here. First of all, you do need some kind of ISO on your machine or disk to get the assets, right? To run this.
To play the game, you need a copy of the game or some form of a disk image of the game, let's say, to run this.
So would you be could the argument be made, again, ain't no lawyer, ain't no software engineer either.
Please do not take this podcast as legal advice.
By circumventing a thing that was only available to be played through the 360 and now being able to play it on a PC, are you circumventing encryption for being able to, because I'm sure the game you can't just put somewhere, it has to match up with the 360's decryption hardware, right, to play the game legally.
Right.
Would you be circumventing decryption by allowing that game to be played somewhere else other than on a 360?
Not unless there is specific encryption in place that you're breaking.
I assume
I doubt there is in this case.
Well, I assume there's wouldn't there be some key that keys the disc to the 360 that allows it to not just be played on something else? I don't know. Again, not a software engineer. Like that's the thing I came up with the Switch emulation, right? Like you need to have your key, right, to your Switch specific key.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely getting into the weeds here. I mean, I think Xbox 360
I'm way
games,
out over my skis on this.
I think the games, the executables are signed to only run on 360s. You're not wrong about that, but
yeah, I don't know. But anyway, I don't want it to be I think this is cool as hell in a way of, again, being able to have a high res version, like you said, Brad, with modern PC stuff for these games that were locked out.
Yeah, like the N64 is one thing, but the 360, for whatever reason, to me, it makes this way, way crazier. Like, there is 360 emulation. It's not impossible, certainly, but like, I guess it's the 360 games still feel fairly new to me and are still like of the modern era of 3D games. So to be able to take a lot of those games that are locked up on the 360 that never got PC ports or even got brought to newer consoles.
Or like good PC ports, because that was a tough time for porting.
Totally. Like, I mean, the first thing that hit me when I saw this was like, dude, somebody make a nice, very modern version of Viva Pinata. Like,
I was just thinking about
begging
that.
you.
Yeah.
Even though that game got a PC port, but it was a it ran fine, but it was full of games for Windows Live stuff. So like it's a mess now having to deal with because those servers don't exist anymore. And I don't even know, I bought that version of the game and I don't even know how I would download it now. This Games for Windows Live has been dead for so long. So like just reporting those games with better graphics and stripping all that stuff out would be great. But like just random examples I've seen people talk about since this news came out, like Saints Row 1 never got a port to anything, I don't think, outside of that generation of consoles. So like imagine like a really nice PC version of Saints Row 1, or like Afterburner Climax is one that I saw somebody float, you know, like just there are a lot of games that are locked up on the 360 that have never really been restored in a better form.
Yeah, and a lot of them specifically because of licensing issues.
Are these getting, I don't know what it is, again, like X input or whatever, like controller support, native controller support built into it as well? Or I
mean, it sounds like this port, if you go look at kind of the README, is just full of modernization. So I'm sure this has got all the kind of bells and whistles you would expect. I mean, it's going to be a lot of work, to be clear. Like this is modern vintage gamer. I always have a hard time spitting his name out. If you go pull him up on YouTube, he did a video about this thing if you kind of want to see some more about it. But like, very important to note, you're not just going to take one of your 360 discs off the shelf, run it through this tool, and then play it on a computer. Like, this is going to dump source code that developer like modders can take and then go port the game, which takes a lot of work. Like,
but it's not the source code, right? It is.
No.
It's interpretation
like,
of it. Right?
It is source code. It's not the source code, but it is like functional enough that they can use it to port the game to other platforms. But like the range of, like I said, the range of possibilities of people. To be fair, it did occur to me, is there anybody as obsessive as the Sonic fandom and willing to put this much work into porting a beloved game and dressing it up this much? Like, probably not. Like, how many of these are we going to see to this level of kind of robustness? I don't know. But there's a lot of potential out there now that this exists for bringing 360 games back in native form to different platforms. That would be really cool to see if it doesn't get squashed.
Or maybe Microsoft brings this in and they sidebar. This runs parallel to the thing we talked about last time, which was using AI to generate, bring old games and quote unquote preserve them. And maybe they bring these folks in house to be like, let's see what you can do with a big budget. Well, and could you get us into a place where we could bring these into modern? Because if you make a PC port, I assume bringing it over to a modern console also is possible.
Yeah, I mean, the sad part is this is not entirely dissimilar to the way they were doing backwards compatibility for 360 games. I mean, I think they were running like a 360 VM to, I forget exactly how all that stuff works, but like the point is like Microsoft absolutely could do stuff like this if they wanted to devote the resources to it. They just have moved on from that as a going business concern, unfortunately.
Clearly, Sonic fans disagree.
Yes, totally. I mean, I feel like that's the ongoing lesson of video game preservation, right? Is that people will find a way where companies fail to do so.
It would be pretty cool if someday you were able to get some kind of like Scum VM style thing that you could just put the disc. I know this is exactly what we said is not happening, but in the future, like where you like launch this Xbox, whatever they call it, fake Xbox 360 thing, and you just put your discs in your PC, and that they can. You
want a Bleem situation?
No, nobody wants a Bleem situation.
Yeah, I mean, we will more or less get there eventually with emulation for 360, but like the bigger thing here is this is going to let you do way more with the game.
No, that's what I mean. Like,
emulators can add some stuff to the games that they're running to make them better, but like, when you've got full source code, you can add so many more features to an old game. Like they could go in and add multiplayer to games that didn't have it before and stuff like that. Like just all kinds of crazy stuff.
People are smart and creative.
Yeah.
Never underestimate a Sonic fan.
There's just like these fucking modders have got to be stopped. There is just so much awesome stuff happening in this scene all the time these days.
Yeah. Smarties. All right. That's going to do it for the news?
Yep.
That's going to do it for the news.
It is.
That's going to do it for the news.
And that's going to bring us up into emails. We have an email address, podcast@nextlander.com. That is podcast@nextlander.com. Brad, you got one or two here to throw out there?
Sure. Here is Corey of Portland is how this is signed.
Okay.
This is in reply to your YouTube conversation on the Ramblecast recently. I recently deleted my entire Google account.
Great.
A decade plus of Gmail, Chrome, Maps, Voice, Drive, Photos, Blogger, and YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
See, okay, this is crazy. I didn't actually realize it worked this way. I guess I should have known, though. Now my TV, phone, tablet, and desktop and laptop each have their own YouTube algorithm, and it rules.
Sure. Interesting. Okay.
Now my living room is the history and science YouTube. My phone is the news on the bus ride YouTube. My laptop is the cancer research YouTube.
Okay.
It's been a bummer that I can't save videos, but I'll die eventually.
Oh, man.
That's a good way of putting it.
You can get the same result with just signing out too, of course. Although actually the way that Google sign in works, that would be you signed out of every service on that browser, not just YouTube, right?
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
This is an intriguing idea.
I mean, it's basically like unsigned raw YouTube. I hope Corey is doing okay. And, if the research, I assume the research might be related to something going on in Corey's life.
Well, yes, there's a little PS here. If you'd like an explanation of the physics we use to shoot energy into the cancer cells of a patient's tumor to kill it, let me know. I think you'd get a kick out of it. So there's clearly a professional tie-in there.
Oh, okay. Good.
He's doing cancer research.
Yes. Doing cancer research unrelated to the I will die someday.
Yeah, I think that was more just like, hey, you can't take your saved YouTube videos with you.
Yeah. Good to clarify. Okay, good.
Yes.
Bury me with my YouTubes.
That's like, I mean, as somebody who like kind of aggressively curates my YouTube history to keep it from getting poisoned because it's so easy to happen. Like having a different YouTube vibe on every device you use it on is actually like a super interesting idea.
I mean, you could also sign out if it allows you to some devices I know want you to be signed in to Google.
Like I said, I think that would just get annoying if you use their other services because you'd have to keep signing back in to use your email and stuff like that.
Yeah, but nuking everything.
Yep,
that's
impressive.
You're right. Yes, that is. I am impressed.
Let's do this one for Brandon really quick, just to touch on the stuff we've just been talking about. My brain hurts from last week's discussion about game preservation with AI.
Okay.
Can you elaborate how being able to play these classic games isn't game preservation? I thought that's what that means. Game preservation is being able to always play these games going forward so they aren't lost to time, so I'm genuinely confused and would like to understand your angle. The stuff we were talking about with AI is that what they were talking about is ginning up an approximation of the old games.
Yes.
Not the games themselves.
Like they are not doing development work to make the existing product as you remember it work on this hardware. It's interpretation of the original work into something that is like the original work.
Right. And like, how accurate that would be is subject to a million factors. It might be indistinguishable. It might have like tons and tons of small or even large differences that would add up to feeling like, I'm not actually playing the original game. I'm playing something that a machine thinks looks and feels a lot like the original game.
Correct.
Yeah, it's like game recreation instead of preservation.
Yeah.
From what we understand, again, these were technical papers for Microsoft's
These are
AI
things that are just being bandied around right now.
Yeah, and this is also subject to our interpretation of what they even meant by this pie in the sky stuff. But
like if you've got an antique car, right? And it was like a 1920s car, and you're like, oh man, this is the original. And then you're like, I also have a recreation of that I built in 2025 from machined parts and stuff like that. Are they the same thing?
That's not preservation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's something else.
Yeah, or like this is kind of a poor analogy, but like if you took an old movie and went and made the movie again, I mean that's just a remake, I guess. But like if you did it in such a way that you were trying to match the exact composition of every frame, same color palette, same costumes, same dialogue, same everything, like you wouldn't call that the original.
Well, it's like that Gus Van Sant remake of Psycho, the one that is like the shot for shot remake, but obviously it's new actors, it is in a new time, it is being refilmed. So as much as it is like the old thing, it is still inherently a new thing.
Yeah.
And then you throw AI in there being like, now AI make everybody look like the old actors. It's that old conundrum. My grandfather's Conkers.
Full on ship of Theseus of AI generated old video games.
Yeah. Is that still the thing?
You could argue, to be clear, like there are some people who probably could argue that this is preservation. Like it's somewhat coming down to semantics. I would strongly disagree with them.
Yeah.
My grandfather's golden axe.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's the old philosophical discussion.
Yep.
All right.
We have maybe time for one or two more here. Okay, we got a twofer here.
Okay.
Oh.
These were not even sent in on the same day, but they're from the same person. They're both from Tucson Ted. I'm sorry.
Oh.
I believe Tucson Ted has written in before. My wife and I have a friendly competition where we compare how many dogs we see each day.
Wow.
No prize, just for fun. Do you and your families have any friendly competitions? And then he also has listed the rules here. For a dog to count, it
Yes.
must be a dog seen in real life.
Uh-huh.
Can't be on its own property, which that seems
Okay.
Seems arbitrary, but okay.
Hmm.
Can't be inside or going into or out of a pet store, a vet's
Okay.
office, or a dog park.
Okay.
Okay. So you can't camp out to win.
Yeah, sure. I guess that's what that's
Yeah.
for. Is you can't just game the system.
Can't just walk by the same house every day.
Right.
Yes. Also, cats on leashes are worth 2 points.
Okay.
Yeah, those are
Okay.
rare. That actually makes some
Okay.
sense.
Yeah,
And it's all honor system, I'm assuming.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Friendly competition. Man, there are no friendly competitions in this house, okay? We take every competition very seriously.
Fair.
Yeah, my partner is fairly bloodthirsty when it comes to competition, so we've mostly just avoid that by not having those with each other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I have one that's called Who's Gonna Retire First with with my wife. And we just kind of hoard things, and I squirrel away any loose change that I can find. I don't know, I'm trying to think. Like, I'm not a very competitive person by nature, necessarily, but like, I'm getting a little bit more with my kids as they get better at video games.
Mhm.
Where, like I was saying before,
But that's like a
with,
healthy thing, you know? Like, a healthy video game competition there's nothing wrong with that.
So yeah, like a little, like with Split Fiction, having like a little fun in there, just friendly competition there. But yeah, well, I don't know, like something goofy. No.
I mean, you
Who
know,
do the kids love more? Is that's friendly? You know, like the kids love me more. The kids love you. Which child do I love more? You know, a little friendly competition between the kids. You know.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Like, the only thing I can really think of that is anything like any of that other stuff is that, you know, when I was a teenager, me and my friends definitely did the slug bug thing. Every time we saw a Volkswagen, we would punch one another.
Slug bug, huh? Not punch buggy?
Nope, slug bug.
Weird. Brad,
I mean, it's more of a regional expression.
No.
Yeah.
Nope.
Neither?
Nope.
Okay.
Wait, what was the other one?
Punch buggy?
No.
No? Okay. You see like a Volkswagen Beetle
Oh, wait a minute.
get punched in the arm?
Yeah, or a van.
Oh, we didn't even do the van.
Yeah.
Those terms are not familiar to me, but I think that did happen.
Okay. Did you get 2 for flinching?
Maybe? I don't remember.
We never did the 2 for flinching, but if we said it at the same time, both people got punched.
Wait. Oh, if you did slug
Yeah,
bug
if
at the
two
same
people
time.
say it at the same time, you punch each other in the arm.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay. Tough rules.
I mean, look, we were teenage boys and we were prone to hurting ourselves. I mean, we were skaters after all.
Brad, any friendly competitions for you?
Not really.
Okay. Look at us.
Who
Just
can
out there.
avoid doing the dishes the longest?
Is this the friendliest of competitions?
Yep.
I'm just
Everybody
not that
wins.
competitive anymore.
Yeah, there's probably stuff I'm just not thinking of that, like, my family would be like, "Oh no, you definitely."
You know,
I will say for shoveling snow, it's probably not a friendly competition. It's probably I always want to make sure I'm out there shoveling snow first because my neighbors, we shovel each other's driveways, and I never want to be the one who owes a neighbor for shoveling the drive. So I always want to make sure I shovel, not the driveway. Sorry, I should say the sidewalk.
The
driveway's
walkway,
a lot of
yeah.
work. Yeah. So I always want to be out there first shoveling. So if I see my neighbor out there shoveling, it's like, God damn it, get out there first. Oh, now I have to write him an email and say thank you. I always want to be the sidewalk.
You want to be the thank, not the thank ye.
That's right. That's just that guy across the street with that snowblower. At that point,
Yeah.
I'm just sticking knives.
That's
in
not
tires.
friendly competition, though.
No, that's not friendly
No.
at all. There's nothing friendly about that. All right. Emails?
Yeah, last this is the other follow-up from Tucson Ted. Does the hilarity of naming a dog Doggy Jones outweigh having to explain the joke to everyone?
Not at all.
Oh, Dougie Jones. Okay, Took me a second.
No, I like
Okay.
it. And here's the thing. Even if you have to explain it, which I actually don't think you'll have to, that is nowhere near the most ridiculous name I've heard for a dog, even like recently.
Yeah.
It's totally worth it. That's a good name. I like it.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Doggy Jones.
Doggy Jones is really good.
Just call him Mr. Jones for short.
Whenever you call
chuckle.
him, just say Doggy Jones.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. That's the emails.
Yep.
And that's going to do it for the show. I want to thank everybody for listening. I want to thank everybody for going and supporting us over at patreon.com/Nextlander, where you can find things like the video Ramblecast, the Ramblecast in general. We got a Planorama going up this week. We've got Never Been a Better podcast up from last week. Listen, if you really don't want to hear about this size of Dan's poop, there are some parts maybe you want to skip on that Ramblecast, but I
didn't have that choice.
No.
It's kind of make the chapter feature work for you.
That's right. That's
It's
right.
hard to use when you're on the show.
Because you don't know what's coming out there. That's over on the Patreon. Bunch of stuff happening next Monday. We'll have Mike Mahardy and I are doing our Warhammer, Total Warhammer 3. Total, what is it? I forget the name of it. Total War, Warhammer 3. The evil campaign will be going up on the Nextlander Patreon. The good campaign already up over at the Fire Escape Patreon. You can go check that out. And that's all happening at patreon.com/Nextlander, where you can find a tier that is right for you. And we have one tier that gets their name read on this year's show. Alex Navarro, would you mind reading our mysterious benefactors for this week?
What would you do if one day I just said, yes, I would mind?
Then I would just read them.
Okay. Today's not that day. Our mysterious benefactors for this week are Sean Miller, RRE, Alpha Rhythm, Infelicitous Rips, David L., Kelly F., Brian Lucier, Skywarp, John Hubbard, NXL Retirement Fund, Evan Cook, Mark Wilhelm, Jerry Lee, Deirdre almost forgot to change her Patreon name, Gary Pesky, Robert Fisher, Bunny Crimes enthusiastically recommends next.content.town, Jad Rita, Statics, Brian Murphy, Randy Duax, Randy Alderson, Andrew Tiebkin, Alex Wu, It Me JP, Edward Chick, Andrew Slosky, Steve Lynn, Matthew Herrig, David Campos, Anita Bath, and Tyler Treese.
Nice. Those are our mysterious benefactors for this week. Thanks to all of them, and thanks to everybody who supported us. Who, speaking of next.content.town, having Will Smith on those Void Crew expeditions been great. Having Abby Russell on Lost Records been fantastic. If you like seeing people come through here and like seeing people who do great work get compensated for coming through here, go over and support us at patreon.com/Nextlander. These are awesome folks, and their time is worth a little compensation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's not be like Adult Swim.
Let's pay people.
Let's not be like the I said it before, I'll say it again because it always makes me really angry. Trying to get people compensated when we're at Giant Bomb for coming through always seemed like it was more of a hassle than it should have been for a giant corporation. So if you like the idea of compensating people for their time and want to support us and help us in that mission, patreon.com/Nextlander might be for you. Thanks everybody for supporting us. Going on this week, though, like I said, Void Crew is up, Lost Records is up, Watchcast with Brazil, and our journey into dystopian cities has begun.
The weird kind, specifically.
Yeah, only the weirdest kinds. So Brazil is up over on the Patreon. We'll be journeying into the Warriors soon, and moving on to a couple of other dystopian cities. The schedule is up over at the Patreon. You can check it out. Prepare yourself for those dystopian cities, in more ways than one, maybe. I don't know. Hopefully, just in the media sense.
Yeah.
But that's going to do it for the show on Friday. Volgar.
Yes.
Yeah, we're back.
Remember that?
Yes.
Maybe finishing it.
Maybe?
Is it the last Volgar?
Maybe.
Is this the run?
It could be.
Could be.
I think
let me ask you this, Brad.
Yeah.
If it's not, is it though?
Could it be?
One of us should finish that game.
I agree.
Okay.
I think he's pretty close. So although I think didn't I close the gap? I think I'm like one level
You
behind
did.
him now.
Yeah. It was getting pretty rough there for a bit.
If I really bear down, maybe I can make it into a race again.
It's always it's a friendly competition. Who can see the most Volgar dogs?
Yep.
So yeah, join us over on Twitch for that with Patrick Klepek and the Remap crew. But yeah, that's going to do it for this week's show. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Hope you're doing well out there, or as well as can be. Thank you very much, Alex Navarro. Thank you, Brad Shoemaker.
Thank you.
And we'll be back next week. See ya.